if Stu's talking to me for, because I only talk to him at the bar, if he's talking to me for too long, I can just be like, what? And walk away. As if something that needed my attention was...
What's that? Oh, I'm being beckoned.
It's really funny to me.
Cool.
It's also fun that sometimes I have to be like, Stu, Colin forgot to pay for you, so you ran out on your tab.
He also told me the last time I talked to him, he was trying to tell me that, like, the main... He was doing this thing... Oh, it was like we were at the bar because Adam Endress was in town, and Stu was trying to tell Adam that he like picked a good time to move back to Baltimore because Baltimore is about to like. He was saying it in this like insidery way, and I was like, "What do you know, Stu?" And he basically said like he was like, "Well, you know the main like structural problem of like why Baltimore can't like be nice." And I was like, what?
No city
I was
paper?
like, you mean like, are you talking about like developer, like real estate investment shit where like people can't
Corporations not paying taxes.
like housing problem. Like in my mind, I was thinking like,
Hopkins,
oh, he's talking about like a housing, like the crisis of housing where no one can afford housing. Like I was thinking of like all these things in my mind of the things he could be talking about. And then he was like, oh, actually, you know what I thought he was going to say was like the thing where Brandon Scott was like, we're going to put like all these billions of dollars into the vacant houses.
Right.
That's what I thought he was going to talk about. And then he was like, basically like, no, well, the problem is that like all of the drug treatment centers are like on Charles Street. And so this is like should be our like Broadway, like our shining jewel of town, but there's like junkies there.
Oh my god.
He was saying that like
he's
undesirable
given me that spiel
people
before.
on the streets are like the reason
But
Baltimore
that's also
can't
been the
be
case
nice.
for decades.
Yeah.
Like,
But he was saying
needs to be
he
pilloried in
was
the town
saying that
square.
Hopkins is gonna open he was like, why does it have to all be like right in this central corridor? And then he was saying that Hopkins is gonna open like you know, harm reduction like methadone clinic thing but like over on the east side. But literally I mentioned this to Christian who like works in harm reduction and like you know knows like I said that thing that Stu said like why does it all have to be and Christian was like gang shit, like you can't put it on the east side because then the people from the west side can't go there, like you have to have it also just like access like centrally
Totally.
like there's so many reasons why it makes sense for it to be, but he just like came with this like investor class like galaxy brain
really
like thing
And, like,
about it, and I was
yeah.
just like
One sentence
this
is gonna change the
person's-
whole
that
city.
was when I was just like
It's gonna be very
I'm good
nice.
on you
Addicts,
basically
addicts
forever.
very
don't feel
nice.
danger,
A nice-
in
Yeah.
danger around like an addict either. Like,
Oh, that's-
you-
yeah,
you-
junkies
No,
are
but
pretty
he
harmless.
was saying like
Right.
why fancy people,
Right.
why Charles
Right,
Street
right,
isn't
right.
nice.
People don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah,
those
yeah.
people are only there during the day. Like, I lived on fucking Maryland Avenue, across the street from 2 methadone clinics.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And the
that's right.
junkies were there at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And then the cops were yelling at them through their intercoms.
Yeah.
That's why it was unpleasant.
Yeah.
At night, there was nobody there.
No
it
one's
was
there.
great.
Yeah. I mean, granted, these I wouldn't call like North Ave between North and 25th walkable necessarily at night, but you know.
I mean, at least
But not because of the
wild.
junkies.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not because the junk.
It's definitely a little more wild than when you get above.
25th. Yeah.
25th.
When you're into Charles Village.
But if that's just people walking around
But
and
also
you're
in
like,
Charles Village, you
in
just
a
have to
different
deal
way.
with fucking frat
Yeah.
parties. Like,
Yeah.
I used to live next door to where you live
Yeah.
now, and that was the worst place I've lived in Baltimore because it was just constant frat parties
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
all the time. Also, our bedroom was the
Yeah,
front
you
room,
had the front
Yeah.
so
room.
that was pretty miserable. But like, yeah, like I slept
must have
better
calmed
when
down a
I
lot,
lived,
I guess.
but with the junkies. So I don't. Yeah.
They're also not trying to draw attention to themselves.
Well,
You know, I mean, sometimes they can't help it.
Sure. Yeah. It's
It's a problem. It's not a good thing. Yeah, and like but it's not.
But also, like,
Not
if
for
you-
the
if you
reason. It's
spend
not
any
bad
amount
for
of
the
time-
reasons people
yeah.
think it is.
If you
It's
spend
bad
any amount
because
of time
people
around
are
those
ruining.
people,
You know,
yeah, you're just
they
like,
are
you
in
just
trouble.
Feel empathy for
Yeah.
them. Like they're like they have serious problems that
Yeah.
they're doing their best to manage.
Yeah.
In a place that's
Yeah, but
openly
they're not
hostile to
nice.
them.
We want Charles Street to be nice.
Yeah,
They're not
absolutely.
nice.
Right,
Well, then
right.
and then there's while we were living in Holy Underground, AmeriCorps took over. There's this vacant lot on Charles, but like we see it from our back porch basically, and we would park there because it was just a vacant lot. And then they started ticketing us, so we couldn't park there anymore. And the reason was that AmeriCorps was trying to plant an orchard for the methadone clinics to have activities or something for their clients. Which is this is just like poison sand in a lot.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get a bunch of 20-year-olds to come out and plant trees in it, and just there's nothing in that lot still. This was 10 years ago, and there's nothing in that lot. And like the minute they told us that, we were like, that's never happening. Like you're just completely wrong-headed about this. And like, so it's this shit where people are like, we're gonna make this nice, we're gonna like do this thing. It's like, no, you're not.
Well, I told Stu I didn't want it to be nice because then my property taxes would go up.
If you want to make it nice, just reduce automobile traffic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing that makes things
That's
nice.
the one thing you could do.
Give me
if you want to make it
public
fancy and nice,
transportation.
just like that.
It's mistaking aesthetics for the actual condition of things. Like,
And they'll never do that because if there's not enough parking, people from the county will never go.
Yeah.
And that's what
Even
getting people from the county is the only way to build anything nice.
Right.
It's next to the red
You have to
one.
appeal
To the right of the red one.
Well, so I never listened to Unreliable Narrators.
Thanks,
but
Jay
is
Dog.
that the type of podcast where they would talk about whether this title refers to, is it punning on a piece of ass or a piece of piss or intentionally both?
I didn't get.
I don't think either or one.
No, it's definitely.
They really outline what the pun is in the chapter, which is it's peace, not
right, but
not pause.
right, but there's a further level of this is a famous phrase on either side of the Atlantic, either the piece of ass that we talk about in America, or in Britain they say something's a piece of piss if it's really easy.
oh.
I don't feel like Gene Wolfe was not.
I don't really
anything
think
is
a piece
easy.
of ass is that big of a, like, I don't really think that that's,
For a man who served in the military, I feel like probably comes across that phrase more often than even we
I
do.
guess Chenille's in this chapter, so she's
ass.
the only verifiable piece in this.
And she's getting leched on.
That's
She is getting leched on by the most powerful Trivaganti in the room.
I think we could maybe call this unintended correspondence.
Maybe that's how
but,
we're supposed to pronounce pause, is not pause, but pass.
Pass.
Yeah, just like in the Byron poem Don Juan,
Yeah.
it rhymes with true one.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Well, and POS is the Easter egg dyeing company, so there's this.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
pieces together.
Yeah, I feel like if we can assume that
Humpty
Gene Wolfe
Dumpty.
is referring to esoteric concepts of like Jewish mysticism pre-medieval times and to like cutting edge theories in physics of the 21st century, I feel like he can also refer to things that are lowbrow.
And he does.
He does.
I mean, it's also pause because he's the dad of the gods and he has two heads, so there's two of them.
Oh, the two paws.
Two paws.
Fuck me.
pause.
Because like there's a point where Auk is like,
to get.
Tartarus was talking to me. I'm working for his pa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean pause.
Yeah.
Haha.
Fuck.
Yeah, see, I feel like we've already distinguished ourselves in the Wolfscape.
Yeah.
By the two paws.
Yeah,
Two paws.
Two paws.
I got two paws.
He used to go to high school here.
two
Two
paws.
paws. He did. I work at that. Oh, yeah. So that's the beginning.
These guys are trying to put him back together and make him two paws secure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did they talk
Secure.
about what the piece is? I think I missed that. What is it?
He hasn't-
The slice. Is that like when
It's not
Hammerstone's
clear.
like, it's
Some
like
people
more
seem
like
to
a
think it's a
slice or-
physical thing.
Yeah.
No, it's
Oh,
a
really?
download.
No,
No.
Treating
no,
Jerobe
no,
as
no,
a thumb
no.
drive.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
second the
A
girls,
thumb drive is a very good way.
the Matera at least, and I feel like Shell initially think they're gonna scoop something out of his brain.
Shell
Yeah,
is stupid.
yeah, because
Right.
they
They just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Shell is an idiot.
Wolf-
Shell is just
Doesn't
not
Shell-
even a full character, just a shell. He's only there to open the door because, as is stated later, you can't open your own door.
Yeah. But the language is in
Very
a way
true.
that you can understand a dummy being misled because he refers
Yeah.
to it being in his skull. You know, so I could relate to
Skull's
Shell.
another shell.
Oh, and there's the weird whale. Like, there's a lot in this chapter.
I feel like this is the first time we see a god talk, like dramatized.
Oh yeah,
Is that
words
right?
out of
like
the mouth.
like conversation.
Yeah, where it's
Yeah.
At least
happening
through the window.
like the
Wait, didn't we see something with Sky? Didn't old
we see
Skilly
Tartarus
do
a
some
little
talking?
bit.
Oh yeah, well,
Maybe.
Like she's in
Tartarus does speak to.
Yeah,
I think this
Well,
is
but,
the-
we
this
don't
is-
see him. Skill is
Right.
inside of
which makes sense.
Chenille for a while. And
Yeah,
I
but-
think that we see her
Yeah.
using
For sure.
Through her.
But the
But we
window,
never
this
see
is the
the
first
screen.
like them
Right.
seeing the
In the
the
window
depiction.
and talking in a
theophany.
conversational
Which
way.
means we're virgins again. We weren't before.
yeah,
and
But
now
it's
we are.
Kypris. Maybe
Yeah, it is
she's
Kypris.
like,
Yeah, maybe Kypris
she's
is
like,
more-
fuck Echidna. I'm talking to these bitches who like to fuck.
Yeah, Kypris.
She's like, go get it, Ock.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense for Jean's
be.
internal justification. Is that Kypris, the reader, is not a virgin, presumably, and Kypris can talk to virgins. I think that was probably his exact thing.
I don't think you can presume that everyone reading Gene Wolfe
Yeah.
is not a virgin.
When she-
I also don't think he would presume.
when she appears earlier. Wait,
Set that one up on a tee.
do we see her talk to Silk
Well, they're waiting for me.
when
Which-
they're
Kypris?
Quite a
Kypris.
few of them.
talk to Silk when they have the ceremony at the Yellow House where they're all walking around and then they hear the glass breaks or something. He goes upstairs and then
Yeah, but they don't
There's a list
show.
of
I don't think they
theophanies.
show
Oh, do they
it
talk about it
actually like
later?
in a conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's like
We're not
alluded
present
to,
for it.
but I don't
Talk
think
about
we
it
see it
afterwards.
happening.
This is the most direct.
Yeah.
The most directly depicted communication.
does she appear at Orpine's funeral? But we don't see. It's also related later.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times where they show up
like,
and
cut
then they
right
talk
when-
and then they
Yeah.
talk
But I
about
know-
what happened
And someone
later,
describes
and
When
also
Kypris-
other times people are getting different kind of like messages,
Yes.
so it's not like one thing.
Yeah.
But when
necessarily.
Kypris appears, I think it's Kypris appears then when it's all, sex workers, pretty much whores, as they say. That they, some of them aren't able to directly understand what she's saying. I think.
Some.
Some,
Probably. The butt sex whores.
maybe. Could be. We don't know what constitutes fluidity in
That's on the phone. Want to talk about other name stuff? I get excited
Yep.
about
I love
Jaroba being
Jerboa.
whatever.
And there's a
he's
Jerboa
a-
Incus thing.
Yeah.
Well, because of the mouse, Apollo starts out as a mouse god and then becomes the god of light and muses and order and everything.
I also feel
so
like this is
that's
the first
exciting
time in the
for
book
me.
that we see someone like
Jerboa as a mouse?
reference
Yeah.
like the name as like a thing.
Oh,
Like-
yeah,
Like
to
no
point
one
out.
else in the book has been like, oh,
Yeah.
like a Quetzal is this or like Silk is this.
I think they do it with Chenille.
Oh, okay. Or yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh,
something
there's a
has
thing
their
where they-
knife.
Yeah.
And then there's also I feel like a thing where it's like they talk about people being related because of their
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
This is
Which
the
is where they
roots.
talk
Like a
about like
bird
Silk and
or
Chenille
something.
seems
Yes.
like they should be related
Yeah.
because they're both Chenille is a Silk.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
This
they-
is the
they talk
only, I
about
feel
it.
like, straight up rude time it's happened.
Well, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like, oh, what are
It's like
you
an
like? Something that
incus, yeah.
steals eggs out of a tree, or
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what all the kind of the counselors are, right? The Patos and the Lorises, aren't
they're
they?
like the
They're
little monkeys.
simians. They're all-
yeah.
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 It's just interesting
Simians.
to think of the the residents of the world, like the inhabitants of the
thinking the
world
new
having
white
this
lotus.
knowledge of like these stuff like an Incus and a Jerboa and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so Incus and Jerboa are kind of at odds here.
Mhm.
Incus is a bone in your ear.
Yeah, that's a
But
weird.
the Jerboa mouse is also known for having exceptionally powerful hearing.
Interesting.
Oh, is that right?
It's one of
Yeah.
those big eared kind of
Yep.
hamster things.
It's-
That's
he's
why
a
he's
jumping
like,
mouse.
he's
It's
like,
like
I
Paul
clock you.
Muad'Dib,
Jumping mouse.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
The-
he names
yeah.
himself Muad'Dib is
The
the,
desert
kangaroo.
mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Jerboa is a desert mouse,
Exactly.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
Jerboa, it's the same dude.
Yeah.
I think.
as Muad'Dib. Yeah, it's funny they're fighting about their names.
Oh, I've never thought about Gene Wolfe being into Dune.
Must have been.
I mean, I'm
Sure.
sure he must have read them.
Yeah.
for
You
sure.
gotta at least read them, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Jerboa is missing that Incus's name is a little piece of an animal. Well, Jerboa has the nice big archetype. And that really, like, Incus, who's been so high and mighty and even has a robot gassing him up 24 hours a day, is sort of being shown up by this just random old fucking dude whose appearance is initially very striking.
Who you talking about?
Jerboa. When Jerboa first appears at the door, he almost seems like it's like a Gandalf moment.
Yeah, he's
or
like a
something.
ghosty, wizardy man. And
Yeah.
then there's that weird thing where he like stands up and he seems tall.
Yeah, he's upstaging Incus. Incus is like a
Yeah.
minor
There's
receding.
Right.
height
A
is there's a whole bunch of height stuff in because there's
Yeah.
a point where like they say that the sun is almost as tall as Auk. Which really puts Auk in quite a position. He's
And-
bigger than the sun.
And an immensely tall parishioner leads in a baboon.
Baboon. That's a really striking
The
image.
baboon, the
Yeah.
tame baboon.
Yeah, after that he's already implanted
And
very
that's-
firmly in your mind an image of monkey torture.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's
that's very
if
bad.
Someone like stands to their fullest height, which isn't that impressive somewhere in here, right? That's
Incus.
the line.
Incus is
Yeah.
short.
Yeah.
Incus
yeah.
is getting...
But
Well,
the
it
big
happens
dogs-
right after the other one.
Yeah.
Incus stands up and it's puny, and then immediately after that, Jerboa looks up and it's like he's almost as tall as Auk or whatever.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is just a
Wolf's
bad
obsessed
time
with
for
it.
Incus is being like really put in his place.
Incus patera stinkus.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and his god, who he has, is Scylla, who is the one that is really. I mean,
A 12-year-old like pissant.
yeah, and she's allowed her city to be captured by Svig. She has not helped her people here. They're like tearing each other apart and getting conquered by a foreign entity now. Like she is kind of the shittiest guy to have on your side at this moment.
I mean,
That's what it
forgive me for saying it, but she's kind of Trumpy. Right? She's
Walking
just
around.
throwing temper tantrums and giving her what she's responsible for away to a foreigner.
Trumpian goddess.
No,
She is mean.
she is mean.
Well, if this book is prophetic, that means that the women of Islam are going to come.
I mean,
save
that would be
liberties.
great. I'm having a problem with everything I watch lately. Just feeling. I've been watching a bunch of superhero stuff from 2018, which, like, of course they were making fun of Trump then. And I'm like, oh, they got it even righter than but it's just that they were trying to make him into a comic book version of Trump, but you know, it seems so prescient now.
But he is a comic book version.
Right.
Right,
So-
right.
That's his power,
So-
is that he understands narrative way better than
That's
they do.
true.
I mean, it's the wrestling. Wrestling is the key to unlock politics, and that's all it takes. But those fucking assholes think they're too good for something like wrestling to learn. They've been spoiled for so long that they've letting the narrative crafting part completely atrophy. Whereas it used to be a mythology that was so convincing that even many of that class believed it. But now it's like that part of the thing is taken for granted, even though that's the fucking mortar holding all the bricks together.
Well, I think the problem is behind the scenes. That, like, they hung their narrative on people not seeing how the narrative was made, and now that we can see how the narrative is made, their polished kind of thing doesn't work. It's
Yeah.
reality television, which is about the narrative being made, that is successful,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In any case, there hasn't been a whole lot of rising to the occasion.
No.
There's been a lot of doubling down.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the whirl. I've been on a fast. I've done almost 2 whole weeks now. No Twitter, no Reddit.
Wow.
Unless I'm Googling something about a video game. I'll look at Reddit for specific information about video games, but I will not leave the thread. Unless I see weird politics allusions, in which I will leave
I think
immediately.
that's the direction, people are headed now.
Well,
think
I
time to
read
stop
on
looking at
Reddit,
it.
someone said it was trippy after 4 days to
Yeah.
go completely cold turkey, no socials. And I was like, well, if there's a chance that it's trippy, I should do it. But then once I hit 4 days, I realized once you're kind of in, you're like, there's nothing I can gain by breaking this that would be worth more than just the possibility of maybe tripping in a couple of days from now. You know, like no amount of I want information for survival. I don't say shit that gets taken the wrong way, or so I know like where my enemies will attack me and my finances, or whatever. But just thinking over the last bunch of years, where has any of that gotten me? I'm not less or more anywhere up or down the survival scale if I had never learned about and just name any fucking news event of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So I'm taking now I'm just stuck in it. I'm like, why would I break? I'm going to have to see this through as long as possible.
Right. Yeah, do it. I think that's cool. Like, look for information around you.
I do have a bunch of Substack subscriptions that I've like accumulated over time. So I do, I get news that way, but I feel like that's like blogs of specific voices.
It's not really news.
And I feel like
I got one that's news, pretty solid news.
Oh yeah, which one?
Foreign exchanges. It's this guy Derek Davison. He does like a daily email. I highly recommend it. Actually, it's very dry, and he basically it's like world news. He doesn't really get into like domestic stuff, which is also very helpful. Honestly,
I'm more interested in that. I don't care about.
It's really good. Every day it's an email, and it's just like sometimes they're a little longer, but usually it's like a paragraph about like basically just like what happened that day across the globe. It's like separated by continent and then by country, and it's like. It's pretty great, and then you can like everything will have like links where you can click out to like if you wanted to like read a longer thing about a specific topic. Yeah. But I feel like there's a thing that happens if you like read that, and he's very like, I've like listened to interviews and stuff with him and like read his writing enough to know that he's like, ethically and like politically trustworthy to me,
Sure, yeah.
And he doesn't really do a lot of editorializing. Sometimes he'll put like a sarcastic little joke in there or something.
So the stuff that he links out to is from like external
his articles
sources.
And
so
stuff,
it's more like aggregation that he's doing.
Yeah, but it's great because I've noticed that like if you read it like actually like if in the times when I'm not working and I have like time to like sit and read it, they're not that long and you can kind of skip past the ones you don't want to read or whatever. Yeah. But if you, like, part of the thing about reading, like, articles about an event, like, especially international stuff where you, like, don't live there and don't really know, like, the aggregate of how you got there, the problem with reading them is that there's so much context that you can't really understand it, and they never try to explain the context because they don't really want you to understand what's going on, so they're just telling you, like, the thing that happened without any context. But there's a cool thing where if you're like reading that thing over a course of time, you start to get a longer narrative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like
because
reading comic books.
It's cool. I recommend it. It's something like $50 for the year.
Oh.
And it's like very affordable, and
What's it called?
Foreign exchanges. And he also has a podcast that's like kind of similarly sort of like dry and useful and not too long or too called American Prestige, which I think is a great name for it.
Yeah, I like Substack a lot because you can get a whole, like, across the table, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and, like, you can ignore them easily if you, or, like, I let them build up, and then when I'm at work on the weekend, I, like, pick through them, but I feel like it's just, like, a balanced diet when you're just picking shit at kind of random.
I like Reddit.
That's sort of my issue with like Substack or like any or Patreon or like these like generally subscription models for things. I just really struggle with because if it were a newspaper, like a reputable newspaper that came out every day, then like getting a subscription to that would be good and helpful, and like then you could have like a selection of writers that you trust who are part of that, and that like you're paying whatever $5 a month for that. But when you have to like do a la carte for everything, it's such a like at least to me it feels so unsustainable to the point where like I don't even really there are a couple of Substacks that I have like the free subscription to or whatever,
that's
like,
pretty much all that I have.
I think that's fine, but like I think that like for free stuff it makes sense, but at that point it's like blogs, and it's like but if you want like really like if you want good reportage on stuff, like those people need to actually make money, and they're much more likely to be able to make money if they're a part of an organization that is like has a much broader readership.
But the problem with a part of an organization is that if, as at any scale, organizations are fucked.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And then
Like,
you're
it's-
dealing with the bottom line of the organization, and that's why I actually like subscription model, because the person is not getting paid by someone who is worried about ad revenue or whatever.
Yeah.
You're just paying them directly so that they can support themselves doing the work that they already are doing.
I like
and
that.
that's
I
like
like the
it's
I like
practical.
the theory.
Yeah, I like in theory.
It's just the
yeah.
practice of it. It becomes so like what I would really like is I guess what I would really like is just for all weeklies to exist
Yeah.
again, or something that functions in a similar way.
yeah.
That's something. Something I think about with
The
Wizard
promise
too, but-
of social media, which was great when it was introduced as a utility, and I think of Substack as an extension of social media. The promise was that communication would be less institutional, and like individuals would be out there in a free marketplace of communication and ideas.
And
Like,
then
anyone
clearly
can make-
that's not
anyone
how
can
it
make
happened.
YouTube, anyone can post whatever to this or that or the other, and so institutions became destabilized, and it's natural to become cynical about institutions in general. Let's say like whatever XYZ newspaper or like what and they've been facing their own problems in response to this, and they've been getting worse because of that. But like
they all got fucked by the Facebook fabricated pivot to video too.
Right.
So the social media
there's something kind of like schizophrenic though about like the current like landscape of like having
It's
to
tough.
get information and pick out and pay for like I'll throw 5 here for this thing I like and 10 here for this thing I like.
it is, but I think there is a part of it though. I do. It's difficult and sort of annoying, and also like there's something to be said for having an active role in like critical thinking and like trying to suss out like what is and isn't trustworthy, because like the New York Times is an arm of the United States government.
Yeah.
Like, and
Israeli
anyone who
government.
has any money is an arm of the United States government. So like, what are you gonna do if you want to like actually like think critically about the world you live in? Like, that's always been that way is all I'm trying to say. It's never not been that way. It's just now people actually like talk about it and think about it. Like the New York Times has always been an imperial tool. It's just like now more people recognize that that's true.
I think
I think
always
what's
is a little
I
bit.
think-
No, it's always
No, it's-
100%
I mean,
always
maybe
been
with,
a
like, the New
completely
York
fucked
Times.
like
Maybe
yellow
the New York Times
journalism like.
specifically, but I don't think that like an institution of journalism is inherently like a corrupt.
No, I
thing.
don't think that all institutions of journalism. I think the
ones that have survived.
Exactly,
Sure,
it's
like-
success.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
I think
you
at the
succeed
time
for
when you
long
had-
enough,
you
you're
could-
going to be corrupted.
Yeah, and I think like there was a time maybe when like some like local papers could have been doing good local reporting, but then at the end of the day, if there's a developer who wants a certain thing to happen, they're gonna pay them to do that shit like 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Like rich people are in charge of the news that you get if it's any kind of institutional thing. I actually do. No, I changed my mind. I do think inherently like to a certain scale, it's always corrupt.
Yeah, the
I think-
scale.
I think it's the
scale.
scale.
is
In
everything.
capitalism.
It's the scale.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's the scale that is the trick. I think that if what I am really interested in seeing, and kind of maybe I'm kind of like outlining some of my own ambitions as a publisher, but like I am really interested in seeing publishing organizations broadly that are actually interested in setting particular priorities and operating according to
Yeah.
them. Like I'm really like the idea, like even thinking about like an alt weekly, like maybe there's some amount of like advertising and stuff, but the focus of that advertising is going to be hyper local, and that can then be something that is really specific to a community, but is still doing stuff that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's I think maintain a small enough scale.
Yeah.
I think that's the big trick.
Absolutely.
Is for
No groups more than 200 people.
kind of exactly like for these organizations to cap their own growth, in order to maintain their ethics.
But you can't do that in capitalism.
Right.
Well, you can.
you
It's
but
just
very
extremely difficult.
Yeah.
You can't succeed in capitalism and do
Correct.
that.
So
Unless
you have
everybody's
to have
doing that, and
you
now
have
it's
to
not
have a
capitalism.
known. But so you have to go into it specifically saying the purpose is not to succeed in capitalism.
Yes.
Yep.
It's
Like-
In which case you're trying to
Yes.
destroy capitalism.
Yes. Which is why
And
it
then
doesn't.
capitalism
Which is
will
why
stop
it
you.
doesn't really
And I
happen.
think that's why they nerfed the term sustainability and sustainable. That was like being pushed into like the public lexicon
For a
but
bit.
yeah, and I feel like it got squashed because in the name itself is the answer. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's you can't really argue against sustainability, and when
Yeah.
things are going to shit, you really can't argue against this sustainability. So that I think that word was specifically like quashed by people
Well,
like
any
the New York Times.
any
green.
useful word is going to be.
The New York Times can specifically, like, they can literally issue an edict to remove or downgrade the certain words.
Well, then they'll edit their own headlines,
Yeah.
like hundreds of times after they are already published. You know?
There's a lot of really funny, the government saying you can't use certain words anymore.
Right now.
Yeah, within the government,
Yeah.
or fund anybody who uses these words.
Yeah.
And like one of them is pregnancy. They had to rewrite a whole bunch of things that because they used the word inclusive, but it was like these things will be happening for these, from January 7th to January 14th inclusive. Just meaning all of the days.
Yeah.
But they had to get rid of it. It's really, really
Awesome.
funny right now.
And you have to use slurs.
My mother-in-law works in HR at the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
So Alabama adopted this whole you can't say DEI stuff last year. And so the last year of her life has been fucking hell because they're having to figure out how to change all of the semantics around what they do, ideally without totally tanking the legitimate services that they offer people. And it's a nightmare. Like all of my friends who are in education in particular in Alabama, they're just like,
Have you
so
seen the
fucking
stuff?
This is what you get for faith in bureaucracy.
Have you seen that? There's people online right now who are all pushing for malicious compliance. Have you seen any of this? It's really good. Like there's one where this woman goes to like a city council meeting or something, and there's this old white dude with a beard, and she keeps calling him Madam Commissioner or something, or Madam Chairperson or whatever, and he's like, you can call me Chairman or whatever, and she's like, well, you're saying that pronoun choices aren't enforceable or whatever, so I can call you whatever the fuck I want. And she just keeps calling him Madam Chairwoman or whatever. But it's just that kind of shit.
They deserve to be needled.
Just
for
push
sure.
it.
There's a funny thing in the government
them.
where they keep sending out all these things trying to trick people into quitting their jobs, but they don't pay attention that these emails check all the boxes for phishing scams that all these people have been trained to, you work for the government now, you cannot get phished.
Yeah.
So every time they get one of these pressuring them to
phishing.
quit things, they report it as spam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It essentially is.
And it's because all those people have done, their lives up to this point has been generating spam and phishing schemes.
Yeah.
Of course, but it's another malicious compliance thing of I know that they mean this to be real, but my training says it's spam.
Yeah.
Yeah, this came from external.
Yep.
Don't trust it.
Yep, we're rooting out corruption. I want to make sure I don't get corrupted.
I'm thrilled to see the bureaucracy at war with itself. My sympathies for the people in these positions, that are getting screwed over by the system they believed in, my sympathies only extend so far.
I don't think.
Being married to one of them, fuck you.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I don't think that you can really argue that it's a system they believe in. It's jobs. Like these are just people's jobs.
Yeah, a lot of
So,
these
like,
people are veterans whose minds were broken in war for
like,
this country.
Or like
A lot of these people?
yes,
What do you
a
mean?
fantastic number.
A lot of federal
in
employees are
the,
veterans,
in
yeah.
the
Federal
gargantuan civil service
I guess-
are veterans.
Yeah, I guess there just seems to be a kind of a strange feeling like we should go back, or that it was fine before. Like this is the consequence of that system. It's not
Oh, it
like
definitely
an
is
attack
the
from
consequence of
external
that system,
place.
but that doesn't mean that you don't have to be sympathetic to
they're
people
also-
who are committing suicide because
Yeah.
their lives
I'm not.
are ruined.
I'm not.
They're
no
also
sympathy.
normies,
I just
so
feel
they
like
might not know anything else yet.
And
You
I
know?
also tend to like having worked for a government organization for my entire adult life. Like the thing about these organizations is that the workers who are actually like the cogs in the bureaucratic machine are the ones who actually know how to run everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And anybody above a certain level of leadership is completely removed from the actual mechanics.
Yes.
Yep.
And so then you have all of these political battles that happen up top where they're saying this is bad and this is bad and these are career bureaucrats and whatever. It's like but then they just fire all the people who actually make the stuff run. And so it's not like and they're not doing that out of like ideology or like any other obligation than that just being their job.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know, to me like in some ways like a perfected state would be largely run by the laborers. And I think there's probably some distinctions between like career bureaucrats and laborers, but like at a certain
It
level
depends on the department.
so,
yeah.
absolutely, and at a certain level of these organizations, like yeah, it's just like I am a laborer in my like whatever my arguably white collar office job, but I'm at the bottom of the rung, and also if everybody at my level left, the entire place would fall apart.
Sure.
And so I think that like it's very easy to point the finger at career bureaucrats, but and then try to like whatever liquidate their positions, but like ultimately like they're the ones who actually provide services and actually do things
Right.
for the American people. And anybody who makes more than like anybody who makes six figures working for the government does not help anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Although that being
Well,
said,
you make a lot of money working for the government.
Although
you
that
make
being
six
said-
figures when you're really low down.
I don't make six figures, and
my
I've been
bro-
working for the government for 10 years.
My
so that's
brother,
like-
my brother is you know, he's like, I was just texting yesterday with him, like, how's your job security looking? And it's like, well, I don't have any. Like, I'm not banking on having a job in the next 3 months.
Yeah.
And his job is, my brother got into computer programming, like, really early on. Like, he graduated with, like, a computer science degree in like, 96, you know? So he got...
when it
he
was
got,
useful.
Yeah, so he got into that, like, early enough where he's, like, made a good living doing that. And he went from private sector to, like, federal work some years ago, and in a very, like, he is, like, you know, he's a Gen Xer, and he's just, like, still altruistic or, like, still idealistic in this way where he thinks, like, things could be fixed, or I don't know, but he works for, I can't remember what department it is, but his basic thing is that whatever his, like, group is, they go around and they just, like, talk to all the different departments at an even point. They're like talking to this department, like Medicaid or whatever it is, and they go around and they're just like, why don't your computer systems work? Like, and they are just like trying to make the computer systems
were
work in
programmed
the
in the
government.
50s.
Yeah, but they're like an actual useful, like,
It's
group
essentially
that's
like
going around trying to like fix the problems of the
that's
past.
an internal consulting wing, essentially.
Basically,
Which
yeah.
is actually really useful inside of massive organizations.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, and like I'm sure he makes six figures for sure, because he's like a very highly skilled professional who's like worked for decades to like hone his like skills, and also like really is trying to like fix something.
Yeah, that's
And,
the thing.
like-
If you stick around and you're good at being in the government, you'll be making a lot of money and not have rank.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of
But
like...
so I don't know,
That's right.
you know,
Like,
and
you're
so
just like-
it's like that. I do obviously. I also hate the government because of corruption and like whatever, and I hate capitalism and all this shit, but also like at the end of the day, like you need someone to make sure that the computer system in the like the few things that services that we have that still work for actual people.
Yeah.
But
like,
it was the idea that there was any security or safety there was an illusion, and we were being like stripped of that illusion.
100%.
Yeah,
That's also true, but
which is
security
good.
in any
It's
of
good.
it.
Well, for a long
You,
time.
Well,
you
you
can
know
still
that-
have sympathy for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't have no
lives
sympathy.
are
I am
being
just saying that
ruined.
there's a way of looking at it like this is this meteor that has hit the planet, and then I think when people who haven't had job security or people who have made
Right.
career choices in their lives that have never guaranteed like
Yeah.
these kind of things, I think from that point of view, this is the culmination of faith in that thing would work. You know,
Yeah.
like it's not like
Definitely.
from the
Well,
outside,
I mean,
it's
for-
crumbling from the in.
For a century, getting a federal job was secure. Like that was the whole reason
Right.
that you would get a federal job.
Right, but that
Because you
deteriorated in real time, and we all watched it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like one day.
Well,
that
it
guy
didn't
showed up.
deteriorate. It was people who got in there and forced
Yeah, it was
it to
dismantled.
deteriorate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the furtherance
I mean,
of
I
what's
do
happening
think that
now.
is it natural.
Yes,
that's the
yeah,
action.
sure,
of-
yes,
yeah.
sure,
Yeah,
of course.
scale.
Yes, it's eating itself. Then,
Sorry.
Sure, of course.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's the life cycle of a growing thing.
Yeah. But the problem is, and like I have plenty of sympathy for like accelerationism and just like fuck it. Like I
Just
understand.
push it till it breaks.
No, I like understand the sentiment of that. I'm saying, but
Okay.
but at the end of the day, in practice, the way that works is the people who have the least get fucked the hardest
Yeah.
at first.
Just
Right.
enormous
So like you
collateral
can't
damage.
really just
Yeah, but the acceleration
like
presumes that we have control, and I'm saying we don't have control.
Yeah. Right,
we
we don't
never
have
did
control.
have control. Like,
Accelerationism is a piece of meat saying, I'm going to help these teeth out. Not only is it not in your best interest, you can't.
no.
well, right? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that I subscribe to it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that like I understand why people think that. I can understand why someone would be like, "Fuck it," like burn it all down.
I have $500 billion. Why shouldn't I? I get to be king if this all falls apart.
It's just so odd. I mean, the whole
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, community level shit is the only thing you can actually control.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that's real.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything else requires imagination.
That's
I love
true,
the
absolutely,
abstraction
yeah.
that takes it away
Yeah.
from it.
That's why you can only have groups of 200. That's the amount of people a mind can know.
And that's where the incuses get in and start gumming up our fucking lives. Once we hit that, there's like that
Stinkest.
Well,
that scale at some point conjures these like
If we-
natural parasites.
if we can divert into a little esoteric bywater for a second, it's so that deterioration happens because individuals are doing, you have your incas coming in to do it, but it's also the problem of the congregation where like it's exhausting to know all 200 of those people, and as a person in the group it feels better when you can be grouped and you can group. So like it's an action from both ends. I guess I preemptively said this before fully knowing what you were going to say.
What you're saying reminds me of who is the person that said once, the only thing worse that I'm gonna butcher this, but the exact wording, but like the only thing worse than the man's impulse to lead is man's impulse to follow.
Sure.
I forget who said that, but it's like I think that makes me think. I think about that a lot lately.
Yeah, when I'm talking to other little wizard boys, and they're like, the fucking Catholic Church never should have existed. And I'm like, no, some people can't do what we do, and they need to be in a congregation to
need
get
it.
that trippy
You need
magic,
the tech.
and it works. So that's why that's there. So like, just because it doesn't work for us doesn't mean it shouldn't exist for them. It shouldn't kill.
It's like having a spiritual calculator instead of doing it all
Right.
longhand. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, doing it on your own just, again, requires imagination that not everybody has.
No, and that has been leaking away from people.
Maybe. I feel like we misjudge imagination of the past, perhaps.
Oh, that we romanticize it as being better than it was?
Well, yes, I do think that we.
But specifically,
romanticize it.
their ability to imagine.
Uh-huh.
I think that from this point, we're like, they must have had such. Look at this book; they had so much more imagination. And I kind of think that it was probably similar, and we just have a different
Well, they're also like
ability to judge them.
I mean, very different environmental factors too. Like from like gut bacteria to like ergot or whatever. Like just the. I think that the human capacity of imagination is not something that like goes away. I
It
don't know.
mutates.
Like, it mutates for sure, and like it's responsive to our environments. And like right now we're in an environment that is really antagonistic towards creativity. Our environment's very interested in outsourcing creativity to machines. You know, so I think that it does put us in a very odd position
Maybe
that,
it's like
that past generations have not necessarily had. But I will say too, I mean, like you look, Plato had Socrates talking about how writing was a terrible invention.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
this is an internal argument
Yeah.
of like, is this new technology that we have, whether that's writing or theater or like ships or whatever, like, is this harming us? Is this changing us into something that we should not be?
Yeah.
And I mean, you could accept that it is, but I think that it's much more complicated than that at any point.
I'll revise my my theory here that maybe it's not draining away, but that it is being rerouted into like a whole different like area.
We live
Our imagination
Our-
is making like paranoid daily sort of
the psychic
imaginations.
environment that we are daily subjected to has to be completely different from what existed in the
Yes.
past. Like we are not built to live in the environment that we live in.
Yeah, this amount of information is unnatural.
It's way too much.
I think that we're very adaptable, and I think it's something that we can deal with to a degree. But I think that it's something that like capitalism is not equipped to deal with or interested in dealing with. So it's something that has to happen on a personal and spiritual level.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this goes
I
back
think-
to labor. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we could ingest information to become like higher things or whatever, but kind of like what you were saying. I mean, I don't know if this is what you meant, but like contextualizing like our psychic environment, like within like capitalism, like if we weren't working or weren't beholden to so many things in this country, you know, in our time to like make sense of things, I think it would be a little bit less crazy, right?
I mean, yeah, you can
Like-
even just point to like whatever New York in the 70s.
Yeah.
People could afford a $300 studio
Yeah.
apartment and
Yeah.
invent punk rock. You know, like
Right.
there,
I mean,
like there's
you,
certain.
you went
yeah.
to Tokyo, right? And
Yeah.
I listened to something where they were talking about like the fashion in Tokyo, and it's like, why is Tokyo such a fashionable city? You know, and this is like I was thinking about you, and I was listening to this, and it was like, well, the rents in general are like somewhat cheap, and you can like and storefronts are small, and so you have like all of these like obsessive people who are fascinated with shoes or pants or socks or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck, you know, and they're like experts at that kind of thing, and like so you can go into like little shops and you can become more specialized, and when you're walking around you see other people walking past you all the time, like there's
Yeah.
that density, like that environment is kind of encouraging creativity.
Certainly,
Whereas
yeah.
like in Baltimore, you know, like it's obviously it's different in so many different kind of ways, but you know, like so many different dimensions, but you don't, it's not functioning on that level. Like you still have to work so hard and contribute so hard, and you're distracted by things, so that I know I'm kind of like trying to tie together all of these different ideas right now, but like your psychic environment is just like afflicted more because you're really carrying over your basic needs, and you have less kind of time for those creative like fascinations or interests or like making sense out of all of these
I think too. I mean, like
I think anyone would agree that if your basic needs are
Yeah.
met, you have more. You
got more
You
energy
have
for
more
this.
to contribute
Yeah.
to the world.
Well, if your basic needs are met, then your creativity has to be redirected to meeting those basic needs. You're still being creative. It's just you're creatively.
And-
eating
and-
Yeah,
food
but
instead of
I
painting
no,
a
but that's what
picture.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's not what I. That's what I said was if your basic needs are met, then you have more creativity to contrip.
Yeah.
I didn't think
and-
I was
and
disagreeing.
Japan
with you.
is particularly. Oh, it's complicated, but like I actually found out about this because I was learning about Japanese public restrooms, because the public restrooms in Japan are literally life changing. Like it is the best pooping experience that you could possibly have in a public restroom in anywhere. And so, but then you kind of think about like, okay, like there are all these massive American cities where there are like 0 public restrooms and they're fucking impossible. Like whatever, if you're in New York City, you have to go wait in line at a Starbucks for
There's a
an
good
hour.
how-to episode about that. I've been watching that show. The John.
Oh,
Lewis
you've
show.
been watching
Yeah,
it?
How to
Yeah, how to go to the bathroom
how to
in
find
Europe.
a public restroom.
Yeah.
And he's all in your.
But like in
Pretty
Japan,
good, right?
In Japan,
Yes,
like you can like just like throw a stick and you'll hit a public restroom.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Germany's
like,
kind of
yeah,
like in between. Like they're around.
But
they're not like everywhere, but they're very much
a
around.
major reason why they can do that is because they do not have the same kind of homelessness problem that we have
Right.
in America. So
Right.
a big part of why, like America actually used to have a lot more
Yeah.
public restrooms, but as the homelessness epidemic grew, those became
Right.
shelters.
Hospital.
And they had to be used for other things ultimately. And in Japan, not that there aren't homeless people, I definitely saw some people sleeping on the streets and stuff, but it just does not exist there.
But it's not just that.
I don't have a whole lot of information on how they've managed that. It might be nefarious. Like I don't have a lot of background on that.
Yeah.
the
But
homelessness.
homelessness.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that generally the Japanese culture is far less individualistic, and the understanding of success within that culture is decoupled from money. Not that money is not important there, but the ideas of success have a lot more to do with community and family and like having time to do your little thing.
Right.
Like all of those things are very important culturally to them. And so, but here, because it's this kind of rabid individualism, success is measured with a number that's in your bank account, more so than almost anything.
But that's also another like I don't even think that we don't have public. I think it's even. Well, I'll go like one thing further, which is that it's not that like the public restrooms that we had to be used for other things. It's like we live in a punitive society,
totally.
so like you have to be punished for not being being unhoused or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you're not allowed. You can't have a service that you can use because part of the reason why we need homeless people on the streets is so that you can see that person and be like, if you fuck up, that's you.
Yeah.
That's like there's no safety net for you. You have to like stay in this like thing, this regimented thing. You need to go to the job and get the shitty job and like make the money so that you can pay your rent, so that you don't become that guy because we're not helping that fucking guy.
Yeah.
There's nothing for him. And you want to be him?
Yeah.
Like we have it for there's a reason why we do not solve homelessness, which we
totally.
obviously could.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
yeah.
It's because we live in a punitive
It's
society.
just, but then,
Japan
but
is very punitive too. Like their prison system.
oh, totally.
It's really.
Yeah, I mean they're very.
I'm not
restrictive.
making making a statement about Japan. I'm
Yeah,
making a
I'm
statement
not
about the
arguing
United
that we
States.
should necessarily adopt Japanese punitive systems because I would be in prison. But
We'd all
like,
be in prison and we'd all be guilty.
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
It's
get
like,
out
oh,
there.
you smoked weed, straight to jail. Like that's it. Like it is legal not only to possess or sell weed, but to have done it. It's like it is. Yeah, like it's tough. And like some of that stuff is changing there too. But like really the thing that I'm getting at is less like Japan got it right and more this idea that there are these ripple effects from so we if we're not providing services for our people, or I mean that like it comes up a lot too when they talk about how like the United States Postal Service doesn't earn a profit. It's like it
It's not
doesn't
supposed
need
to.
to.
It should
That's the
not.
fucking point. Is that
It's
it
a
just
problem
makes it
if
so
it
you
does.
can mail things. like it doesn't need to. It's not a business.
Yeah.
And
The
I
whole
think
government should be
the
turning a
government
profit.
is not a business. I mean, I hit that in higher ed a lot. Like a lot of like college presidents want to run that shit like a business, and it is not.
When you
Like,
go to
Well, it is
Ivy
now.
League schools,
Well, yeah.
you're taught that businesses, government, like nonprofits, any kind of organization, there's like there's a philosophy about how they should be run.
It's about expansion
Yeah.
and increased cash flow.
Yeah,
Like
This
at
is
all
how
times.
Dan and I stopped being friends. loans.
I could imagine.
Yeah, you've got to grow
households
every
also
year
govern this
or
way.
someone has failed.
Exactly, and when you're looking at a college campus, like I'm always so like working on college campus is always so frustrating for me because like they keep on having to build new buildings so that they can accommodate new students, so that they can afford the new buildings that they have to then build, and then they have to buy more stuff so they can get more students. And it's not like, hey guys, why don't we just like we're actually reaching a population drop off, so like we're not going to get more students at this point. So
Make them.
So maybe we should just focus on hitting a point of stability
Yeah.
and having this beautiful campus that works for everybody, and then just like trying to create permaculture that can be sustained and provide these services long term without the demand that they continually grow and continually raise the salaries of the people at the top.
Ew.
It's trash.
When I went to Hopkins, there was this giant construction project which had like big backhoes and shit on Charles Street. They were building the Matin Center. It's
Yep.
going to be this brand new wing with like multimedia shit. That was when I was going there. Over the last like 5 years, their backhoes in that exact same spot.
Yeah, they
because they're
ripped
tearing
it down,
the
and they
Matin
put the,
Center.
they put the that's the new one, that new building they're building.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I can't
it's like
get
the
myself
thing
going
that
on
was
Ugly as
when
shit.
it was amazing to
bad.
see like just in my life like on this same corner that whole process come around and be like, what, this is
Those
obviously
construction
clowning
workers
on
are
the-
working though.
yeah. And I feel like whatever money is coming from Bloomberg and stuff, money has to keep moving, at
Yeah.
all times. And so I'm sure that factors into the calculus as well. But it is just, when you're standing on the street, it's so clownish on the face of it to be
I
like,
know.
I know,
I
you're
think
like,
money
didn't they
should
just
keep
build it?
moving though. I
No,
think
money.
that-
No,
Sure,
that's
not hoarded.
But that's the whole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
why rich people shouldn't be that rich.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They
It does-
are Pluto.
Yeah.
It does involve making trying to outsmart the flow. It like involves making these decisions that are just like absurd to a regular person. And that magic is people are out
just
constantly.
like every time they build a new building, it sucks. Like every new construction building that I've been in the last decade of working in higher ed, it has had millions of problems. It has been poorly built. All the windows
Not to
leak.
mention that
They didn't
it's
put-
dumping carbon.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
They
do
made
you know
this
how
made of
bad
glass.
concrete is?
Yeah.
Making concrete
It's pretty rough.
is fucked.
It's too bad. Concrete is so cool.
It's so
It's just so bad for the
fucked. It
environment.
is so fucked.
Yeah, it's not good. And,
Like producing concrete is so fucked up.
but even I'm just like so much of it. It's like, hey, we've got these buildings that have been here since the 70s, and like, yeah, they're not like all glass and concrete, but like they're solid as fuck,
Yeah.
and like maybe we could just maintain these.
You
a
know
little bit
something
better.
else?
Like,
When we were just in Germany, which I'm certainly not saying we should become Germany either, but there are like certain things you notice where you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like I've been there so many times, and just this time I was walking down the sidewalk, and all the sidewalks for the most part, or a lot of them anyway, are like, and a lot of the roads too are cobblestone. And when it dawned on me, and like you see, like you're like on a cobblestone sidewalk, it's just the little rocks, square rocks, and then you're like, I'm like looking at the like utilities are all under there, and I was thinking about it, and then I was like, oh right, because when you see them doing construction where they have to work on the utilities, they dig it up. There's a pile of the rocks over on the side.
Yeah, and then you
they
just
dig
put
it
'em
up.
back.
You put them back.
Yeah.
You don't have to like
Yeah.
pour new fucking
Yeah.
concrete every time.
And
You
when you
just
pour
put the
concrete-
shit back where
Yeah,
you
and when
got
you
it
cover-
from,
and
and
when
you
you
use
cover
it again.
that stuff
You
up
can do
to-
that for hundreds of years
Yeah.
with the same rocks. Maybe you gotta get maybe you break a couple. You gotta get a few new ones.
And when you pour concrete over that too, it just makes it denser and denser, and then like your sewers, you have to extend up to meet. Like there's just so many.
And
like,
then you get sinkholes because it's impermeable,
Yeah.
and the ground underneath is undermining.
Yeah, totally. Like there's just so many.
I was just like, this makes obvious.
Yeah.
This is so
No,
obvious.
U.S. struggles with infrastructure. It's
I did
so
see. I
frustrating.
saw. I think it was on Twitter or
Because
something.
it's
but
because that's
it was
not
like
where
a,
the money
It
is.
was like a picture of like some kind of building where the facade was getting torn off and it had this like beautiful, like deco facade underneath it, and they're like, God, why would we do this? And somebody was like, Yeah, there's an entire generation of people who just grew up breathing leaded gasoline fumes, and then like deciding to carpet all their hardwood floors and dump concrete on top of everything.
Drop ceilings.
Yeah, it's like clearly that there's something that happened where people are. I don't know, the prevalence of lead poisoning in like our parents' generation, I think, is maybe something that's not really researched enough.
This is like
Well,
sort of
people
a side
peg a lot
thing.
of crime statistics to it.
Totally, yeah.
There's a really, that dude Skiz made a documentary in the 90s about Formstone.
Mm-hmm.
It's half an hour long, and I saw it one time because they have a copy of it in the Hopkins library. So I went with a friend of my old boyfriend, and we went and like watched it on a TV in there.
Yeah.
Like you can get it and like watch
we'll
it.
stream
But
too.
I've never I've always wanted to see it again. And I finally, recently, I just like randomly, because Kenny had never seen it and he like grew up here. And randomly I searched it just to see like if it was still, I was going to like see if it was still there and we could go do it, blah, blah, blah. And someone in the last like year has uploaded it to YouTube.
Nice.
And you should all watch it because it's great.
About
It's half an
Formstone?
hour. It's about Formstone, yeah.
Cool.
Is that stuff that some row homes are made of?
Yeah.
They're not
Well, it's-
made
it's
of
the-
it. It's
it's
on
like
the
the
outside
exterior,
of it,
yeah.
yeah.
There's the
Highly recommend.
Yeah,
Is
you-
it
called-
is
I
it
think that would
toxic?
Freak me.
No, it's just really interesting because it was such a fad and it was like
Yeah.
everywhere and it was like people made so much money doing it. But it's all hand traveled
yeah.
completely.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really
Pretty cool.
interesting. I mean, I certainly, I'm fond of forms. There's a, I don't know
I mean,
if it's
it's
still
weird
there,
as
but there's the Baltimore Museum of Industry had a good exhibit on Formstone. But yeah, I mean, it's like the facades and I don't know, like when we bought our house, like, there were two rooms with this nasty carpet, and we like looked under it, and it was beautiful hardwood.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, why? Well, like, what are we doing? Yeah.
Carpet salesmen come around. They're like,
My mother thinks
Yeah.
that carpet is nice for
like
some
covering over so that something looks newer. Comfort, I think, was
Yeah.
like a priority. with, like,
sure. And like,
carpet
I like a
stuff.
nice rug or whatever, but like, you can pick a rug up and beat it outside.
I know
you
there
like,
is
you can- it's just
nothing
so much
more
better.
disgusting than wall-to-wall carpet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's awful.
such an insane idea.
It's just microplastics and
Yeah.
like whatever you walked in with your shoes on. Like
yeah.
I
it's
think
forever.
right wasn't, but also in that generation they had like china hutches with china in it that they didn't use. So I think there might be this idea of like you have something really nice and you protect it. So
Oh,
they may
yeah.
have been thinking like, let's protect our beautiful wood
Let's
instead of,
let's protect our ceiling.
instead of
There
enjoying
isn't.
it.
There is also an element of if we put a cushy soft thing over all this floor, we don't even need furniture. We can just fuck all over the house. And it will
Oh
be
yeah,
comfortable
especially
and
in the
fine.
70s.
Yeah, that's
that
what
was-
I'm saying. That's when they got
Perfect.
shagged. You know, like
Yeah.
I think it was for the orgy.
I don't know.
Also,
I
it's
have
just-
some shag carpet.
They
I
paid
would
the-
not
I mean,
fuck on it. I gotta say.
but so much of it,
Yeah, it's not what actually happens. It's how it got sold. Is
So
what
so
I'm
much
saying.
of it is just fashion stuff though.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
so true.
trends and fashion
Sure.
and whatever. It's like people just do, because people just do the thing that they think other people will like. Or whatever,
Yeah,
you
my,
know?
my father-in-law recently retired, but ran a like a home remodeling business for years, and towards the end of it, he was getting really pissed off because he
It's
was
all gray. Or
well,
whatever.
he was having to spend half of his time trying to convince people to not ruin their like perfect like tiled bathrooms and
Yeah.
stuff. Or then like he had people who like he redid their kitchen and they got a nice like granite counter or what were nice, but like granite countertop. And then a couple of years later, they're like, "Oh, they can make the granite thinner now. We're gonna need you to redo these counters,
Jesus
so we have
Christ.
the thinner granite countertops."
What?
And he's like, "I guess I'll take your money, idiot." But like.
So
Yeah, no,
wasteful
it's like
and
shit like
fucking
that where
stupid.
like when people reach a certain amount of money and they don't have like personalities or hobbies,
Yeah.
they just
They
are
have
like,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
we want this to be the way that it's supposed to be.
That actually could
And-
explain carpet too. Like, look how much carpet we were able to afford.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean,
100%.
there's certainly something
Yeah.
to that. I think it's a pretty thoughtless thing that
So
happens. But
awful.
like, yeah, like
Good
he's like confided to me that there were days that he like felt like he was almost in tears because he was just trying to like. They're like, hey, we want you to redo this bathroom. He's like, are you sure this is like a pristine like early 1960s like avocado tile bathroom that like could be in a magazine or a museum?
Yeah.
Like, are you sure that you want me to tear all of this like high quality, American made material stuff out and just put a bunch of shit from Home Depot in it. And they're like, yeah, that's what we want. He's like, okay, I guess I'll go kill myself. Like, it's just brutal to be somebody who actually cares about any of that and just have people be like, yeah, we don't, whatever.
You know how many times in my life I've thought about becoming a contractor, and every time I do it, I just think about the people you have to work for, and I'm like, well, couldn't do it.
Fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. That's the
Impossible.
reason. Love doing the work. Couldn't deal with
Sure.
the people.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. And that's why that's going through that thought process is how I realized finally in the most pure sense why all contractors are terrible. I mean, like, I do everything myself. I don't hire contractors, but like contractors all suck, and it makes sense when you consider you're like, oh, the type of person who's like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Like,
Yeah.
they're a fucking crazy person
Yeah.
who doesn't give a fuck about anything.
Yeah.
Contractors. Like, just because the contractor is somebody you say, I want you to do this, and they just say, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah. Whoring themselves out. They're
Yeah.
whores.
Yeah. So.
But if you like care about, unless there's like, obviously there's like an echelon of contractors who
Sure.
are like, who can only service extremely wealthy people who really care about their craft. And like
Sure.
Manny is making like the most beautiful kitchen cabinets
Right,
or whatever.
yeah.
But like, you know, not everyone has like 80 grand to spend on kitchen
Totally.
cabinets.
Yeah,
So,
my
like,
father-in-law
if-
was definitely like doing he was design build stuff, so it wasn't like he was just getting contractor grade
Yeah.
shit. But like it was definitely like.
But
even
then
even-
we're just only working for rich people, and that fucking sucks too.
Yeah.
You have to be
Yeah.
a person who's like okay with that too. Which like I could never. I don't know. I would want to die.
Yeah, my father-in-law was an incredibly patient man.
Yeah.
So, it's just-
But it's not just the
real stoic.
people and how much they suck, but it's the
Yeah.
reality that your whole life's work is still just servicing rich people only.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I don't think I could like live with it. It's a lot of the reason why I had to quit that job that I used to
Right.
work. It's like I
Following
can't be in these
around
fucking
super
people's
well.
houses
Bonsai?
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't be in fucking Jeff Redacted's house anymore.
That,
I can't say it on the internet. I
Totally.
technically
Is
signed
that
an
Terrence
NDA.
Hannum wrote some horror stories about art handlers.
Who did?
Terrence Hannum.
I don't
He's he's the local guy. He plays metal and does some noise stuff, but he's an artist and a writer. And yeah, I published one of his art handler stories. I'll send it to you. But it's about going to an insane wealthy person's house and like
Oh yeah, I mean,
getting swallowed up by it or something.
It
you know?
won't be anything I haven't.
Yeah,
heard,
I'm sure.
but
I'm
I
sure
would
it would be.
read
It'd feel very familiar.
So the book.
Who is she? You know?
I liked when Silk unconsciously taps his pencil after Swallow.
Yeah.
He just met this guy that's so impressive and so cool. He's absorbed part of him into his being.
That's what meeting a cool person is like.
Yeah, and now he has this ability to think about the expenditures that I feel like he also kind of absorbed from witnessing Swallow's like acumen.
No.
Now he's calculating up all these numbers about paying the taluses, which I thought also reminded me of like Adobe Photoshop and stuff and Netflix and all now, that like the taluses are the most sophisticated passive billing system in Viron,
Right.
which makes sense as the military industrial complex, but they've totally figured this out in that you've got to pay for all the taluses up front, then you've got to pay the taluses once they show up, and the company is getting that money from the talus back. It's the company that makes the taluses are like, they are the crazy smartest, richest people in Viron by great measure. This like powerful dictator is beholden to them.
Mm-hmm.
Silk is like sitting there looking at this thing. And so then now he's tapping his pencil like one of those guys because he's seen the power of Swallow.
I saw a little bit of one thing I liked, kind of related to what you were saying, is that like I saw a little glimmer of, you know, book one's Silk when he's like thinking about all the things he has to do in order, he's plotting in order to like, you know, run everything. Like I was like, oh, this is the same Silk of
Yeah,
you know,
and he strokes his
few
cheek in a
weeks ago.
circle again.
Yeah,
Which I feel like
yeah.
he hasn't done in a while.
Yeah, like,
And so it
he's
is-
returning back to his like self, his skills a little bit. You know, like he's always just been scheming like one step at a time, and he's always kind of walking a tightrope too. Like I feel like he's like, oh, like he made all his promises. He's like doing the right thing and like kind of leading one step at a time. I feel like, but now we see him. He's like kind of grappling with the reality of like organizing all of this effort here.
Yeah.
And it might be buckling a little bit. I haven't read ahead, but
Well, I think maybe you could, if along those lines, you could make a argument that the buckling is exhibited in his like pretty much blasphemy at dinner in
Right.
front of the Pope.
Yeah, basically, the outsider's the only one I give a shit
he
about.
just
There's like 3 or 4 phrases he says that I feel like are crazy
Yeah,
when the Pope and foreign dignitaries are.
Yeah, he's just
It's-
this minor god is the only one I
This
take
chapter is
seriously.
really interesting because you get the juxtaposition of like Silk kind of in this like diplomatic scenario where they're fussing over like who's gonna sit where and like, oh, do we need to get this guy to bring somebody else so that it's even on either side of the table, and just like almost literally moving deck chairs on the Titanic. And then Auk is over here just like busting into Mantians and being like, yeah, I'm a Theodidact, y'all, like let's see that fucking window. like Charters told me what we gotta do, let's roll.
And he's
Yeah.
got like a Monty Python entourage of random Veronese behind him. We're all like, yeah, we saw him. Like,
It
that-
really is Monty Python.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you see, this is like really highlights like, oh, like Auk is effective and gets shit done, and Silk is just like paralyzed by these fucking like social situations that he now has to survive in.
Yeah. Yep. That's why all of the people who are experiencing job instability in their bureaucratic positions should turn and follow the freaks. The thieves and the like the ne'er-do-wells. They like that. Those are clearly the people to lead for this month.
Sure. Yeah.
They wouldn't last.
It's just that they can't give you the Prozac you need.
That would maybe help.
Depends.
I can't give my wife the Prozac.
Sure. Yeah.
That's awful. I'm so scared about that. Like, this is the thing that they're talking about that actually I'm like, wait, like, no, I need my Zoloft.
Yeah, this
I
is
have
a
to.
tough year to realize that Adderall is really, really helpful to me.
I've been storing it up like a little ant while y'all been fiddling yours down your gullets.
What is there a threat to?
RFK
Mental health
Jr. wants
medication.
to, because he's a fucking
Insane
crank.
person.
He wants to get rid of a bunch of like SSRIs, and
wants to get rid
which
of
I'm also on. So yeah, he wants to get rid of all the things that like help people like live their
Yeah.
fucking miserable
He
lives
wants,
a little bit easier.
he's like, we need to do more tests on this when they've been around since like forever, and
Yeah.
it's weird, and this isn't why he's doing it, but it's weird that they work really well for some people and not for others, but for the people it works for, need it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just like I can't do it.
We'll also just lose our health insurance
Yeah,
if they
that's
get rid of the
more likely.
HHS, which is where my wife works.
right.
And she's always worked there, so she doesn't know how to find a job. She's worked
Yeah.
there for 23 years.
She hasn't been laid off yet.
No,
But it's
but she
But-
works in a DEIA office, so.
yeah.
What's the A?
Accessibility.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they want to ditch accessibility too.
Yep.
It's fucking crazy.
But he's also saying like people
Well,
who
people
are
are just
depressed
healthy,
should
they wouldn't be
go
disabled.
to
Yeah.
Yep.
wellness camps where
By
they
definition.
work to learn the value of a good job. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, they're gonna put them all in A Scanner Darkly starring
Yeah,
Keanu
they're
Reeves.
100% there.
Interesting
Yeah.
you mentioned. I rewatched that. I rewatched the good version of that.
What
the
good version?
The Linklater one.
That's-
you didn't like that?
Is there a difference?
They left the whole ending out,
Oh,
as I recall.
I mean, I don't like Linkletter.
I don't either.
I thought it was
What
a
happens
cool
in A
movie.
Scanner Darkly?
Yeah.
What happens in any
It's-
Philip K. Dick
I thought it
story?
was a decent interpretation of Philip K. Dick versus other ones that I've seen. So
I like
thought
that.
it was cool.
It's been a long time since I've watched it.
Yeah,
But like,
I think it's
I remember
cool.
it enjoying it.
Is that
They're rating it.
rotoscoped?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's Linklater.
Yeah.
He's
He
the
doesn't-
only
he
not
doesn't
only
only-
It's like his favorite thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he only
He's done
does
lots
it,
of
but
stuff.
he loves it when he
You,
does.
Not a fan.
you just don't like Linklater straight
No.
up? No?
Do you like rotoscoping?
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like Ralph Bakshi.
But I don't like his
Ralph
non-rotoscope
I like
shit
the
either.
Gem television cartoon. That's rotoscope.
Yeah.
Early Disney.
Didn't Linklater do the 70s, 90s, like
Dazed and
70s
Confused.
throwback? Yeah.
Dazed and Confused, yeah.
Fuck that shit.
Oh,
Sarah
I-
Fast. I had
I-
never seen
I
that
got
movie. And
such
Sarah
a
Fast was
soft-
like, this movie was so important in my childhood. Let's watch it. And we watched it. And then afterwards, she was like, I hate myself. Those people I thought were so cool were just utter
Fucking
bastard
assholes.
bullies.
Yeah.
What was I?
Yeah, I never saw
I
that.
never modeled myself on Dazed and Confused, but it is a movie I enjoy.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think she
maybe-
was like,
I
those
think that
girls
might
aren't
be
the
the-
coolest.
Oh no, they're
I think
so
that's
mean.
what she thought when she was in middle school.
Yeah.
Now I want to watch this movie.
When I was that age,
middle
I
school.
ran
It's
with the
good.
crowd
I like
who thought
that.
drug
That's-
humor was
it-
lowbrow.
That's like
I
peak
guess.
Linklater.
Is that like, oh, if you watch a drug humor movie, you're just laughing at the same
Oh,
joke
see, that's
over
why
and over again?
I hated drugs, but I loved Big Lebowski and
But
Fear
I would
and
not
Loathing,
call Big
like,
Lebowski a
Lebowski's a
drug
drug.
or Fear and
humor
Loathing.
movie.
Like
Fear and Loathing.
I liked art about people doing drugs, but I was not gonna do them myself.
And still haven't.
That's right.
Mom.
I just don't. I think I don't. I mean, Cheech and Chong is like a drug humor
Yeah.
Sure.
movie to me. These
Yeah.
other ones are like movies about stuff. I mean, maybe the Fear and Loathing.
I really like Dude, Where's My Car? But I guess
Yeah.
I didn't like
Classic.
that.
I haven't
until
seen.
after
I haven't
college.
watched that since high school, so I don't.
It's
really.
really funny.
I
and
suspect
then at
I
the end,
might
they have
like it
a little thing of like, "Hey guys, if you want to show Dude, Where's My Car at any event or anything, just let us know." They really want you to show their movie.
That's so
That's
funny.
It's really adorable.
I have such a soft spot for like shaggy teen comedy movies. I think that maybe just like
Yeah.
just hits.
What do
for
you
me.
think of Van Wilder?
I don't know.
Ryan Reynolds has become such a scourge upon our planet.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Oh, you're against him?
You're not.
Yeah, he
But I always was, so like I don't know. I am not surprised by what Ryan Reynolds is doing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
He's
You're
just
like, you've
everywhere,
become-
and it's like it doesn't make sense to me. Like he's
But
not-
he's been building that. Ryan Reynolds
He's
is
an-
not an actor. He is an entrepreneur.
He's an ad man, pretty much.
He
Like,
is.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
It's
he's
weird.
always been like that,
Mhm.
right from Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. He's
I
been
remember
squirreling
that
away
fucking
those
show.
pennies.
yeah, it's a
There's
strange
an
presence to have
there's,
walking among us.
There's a really
day to
interesting
day.
video
He's good at
essay
one-liners.
about Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson as the new archetype of
Right.
the Hollywood star, and how it has literally nothing to do with them being good at acting or being in movies that people
Acting's
like.
not what they do.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they do ad placements in movies for their other businesses. Like that's their whole deal. It's this vertical integration of the Hollywood movie star, which it's fascinating but
Yeah.
also awful.
Celebrity has like been so industrialized that it's like decoupled from the work that it was initially.
Yeah, well, it's like both of those guys, they could have their pick. They could make movies with Martin Scorsese. They could make movies with literally any auteur director that they could want, but they pick these like C-tier yes men directors who will just let them do whatever they want in their movies.
Well, The Rock had a plan that failed.
Sure. Well, yeah. He definitely was angling for something different for a long time.
Yeah,
like-
he was going to make himself either Mr. Warner or Mr. Brother.
Or Mr. President.
Well, I mean, he kept saying no.
I think he's
But
actually
that's part
given
of
up
almost
on that
everybody
in the
who
last
runs
couple
for
of
president
years.
starts off by being like, no.
Oh yeah, you have to say no, because then people, like, if you said yes totally, then
Yeah.
everybody's gonna be like, absolutely.
That's why
not.
Hillary lost.
But-
Yeah, But no,
The audacity.
He was very clearly Anglo. Like all of his movie roles got just totally like all of the like he's actually a good actor when he wants to.
Who are you talking about?
Dwayne
The
Johnson.
Rock.
Oh,
The Rock.
Did you
Like-
watch Young Rock? I think it was.
I've seen
called?
some of it. Yeah,
watched
that's
like-
basically just a commercial for him being a politician.
Yeah.
And
It was
also
real funny.
heavily revisionist. If you know anything about wrestling history, heavily revisionist.
Of course,
but
pretty sure it revises the other parts of his history that aren't
Yeah.
wrestling too.
oh, certainly. But I mean, but that's the other part of it is like you knowing that he's a wrestler, like you can just kind of see all of his shit for carny, like calculated carnyism. But now I think that the tide kind of turned on him, and people were like, this version, like, you used to be, like, the Pain and Gain guy, like, the guy who would be in fucking Southland Tales, like, this guy who's interested in, like, acting in certain ways, became this, like, really bland, same character in every movie, just, like, self-serving egoism, and everybody kind of saw the bullshit in it, and in the last, like, 2 years, especially, I think, post the Black Adam flop.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly
That was the
where
big thing,
he
where
had
like
to
that
come
flop,
up with a
and
new plan.
he started showing up and doing heel shit in WWE again.
Oh, that's a sign.
He's going to be in the new Martin Scorsese movie. Like, it's clear that something changed when Black Adam flopped, and you realize that he does actually, if he wants people to buy his tequila or whatever, he does actually need to make movies that people want to see.
Well, he pissed off. One of the things that changed when Black Adam flopped is that he had gone and pissed off all of the people who make those movies
Right.
by walking around saying, I'm going to be in charge of all of you, and I think I'm just going to walk in and take over
Totally.
everything. So all of them, everybody had been saying Dwayne Johnson is a nice man. They were all like, kind of a huge dick.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well,
just
he had a
throwing
big-
his
yeah,
weight in around.
There's stuff that
and
came out
acting.
about him like always showing up late, or
Yep.
like spending like being like only wanting to do like an hour of takes or something,
Yep.
like really slowing down productions. He had a big PR problem last year.
So he's got to work with Scorsese.
yeah,
Because
he
all the
had to
nameless
turn
people
heel
are
in
mad.
WWE because he showed up and all the fans turned on him because he came up and fucked up the WrestleMania main event, and everybody was like, "Fuck you, Dwayne," and he's like, "What? You guys were never going to do that to me." And it's like he forgot that when he debuted in wrestling, the chant was "Rocky sucks" or "Die Rocky Die." That was
wow.
people fucking hated him, and that made him become The Rock, and that's what he built his entire career on
Yeah.
was being a heel.
Yeah.
And he forgot to do that for a decade. You know.
Yeah.
But he
Well,
just
success
became a
tricks
real
you into
heel.
thinking that you are successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of you've moved through some success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not you.
Yeah.
It just happened to you.
Yeah.
It seems like one of the hardest things in the universe to be able to not draw that lesson from success.
That's why I pissed a bunch of people off on fucking Facebook a few years ago when I was
Nice.
like, I think when all these people are saying that they're blessed, they mean that they're grateful.
That's what it
And
should
people got
be,
really upset
right?
about that.
Really? That seems like not. That doesn't seem contentious.
I
at all.
am blessed. This has happened because I am blessed instead
Oh.
of I'm grateful that this has happened.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what they mean. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like you don't
It's
you
about
don't bless
dessert.
yourself, you
Okay.
receive a blessing.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of blessings, on the world,
The most blessed people there could be.
how gods could tear off chunks of themselves. Yeah, so it's a neat trick. I think we already kind of talked about this, where the language to describe the piece of pasta that is in jerboa is used not even out loud, but in Auk's head. So it kind of feels like Wolf, although maybe Horn is doing this trick here, of like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
putting the image into our head of a thing in a skull being a chunk being torn off. Like the fear of, we have the fear of Shell because he's led us down that road. And he does it again with the monkeys. He really very like precisely evokes monkey torture for us, and then has that baboon let in, that tame, docile baboon let in. Like
Yeah.
we're being manipulated heavily, I feel like, in a way that is very pleasurable to me as a reader. I like, you know, that's one of the best things about Wolf is like he's clever and entertaining, and that it's so nice to be messed with him on these micro levels.
That piece of pasta thing too also made me it kind of like reinforces some of the sideways cyberpunkness of this book, where like, because he talks about there being like, you can tear off a chunk but it doesn't diminish the original, and it's like just this kind of thing that whatever like comes off, and that's just like how file copying works. You know, like they're just
information is holographic,
right? But like it's I mean it's kind of like this whole book obviously, but like finding ways to think about these like cyberpunky technological ideas, but from the perspective of people who do not have that kind of language for it at all. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I love that. I always
such
love
a
that.
cool thing.
No.
Who was the monkey for, though? Some
Right,
kind
'cause
of
he doesn't choose it.
oh no, but when he's
which
talking
god
about
it's
his
for.
Oh yeah.
when
Probably
when he's
for
like-
Echidna, right?
yeah, it'd be interesting
Well-
if you don't want to say.
Oh no,
Baboons-
Scylla likes kids being killed.
What was in real life? Baboons are like Thoth.
In real life.
You mean the baboon or the monkey? Are we talking about the one that gets led in, or the one that he killed when he was first becoming a priest?
I'm talking about that monkey now, the first
The monkey.
priest.
Oh,
because
well.
he goes through the list and says there was a singing bird for Molpe and a mole for Tartarus and the monkey. And I thought it was conspicuous that he's not saying who the monkey
But
is for.
they're trickster people usually. Hanuman is a trickster
Right.
god. So
Yeah, or Sun Wukong too.
So who would that be?
yeah, who is the Mercury trickster person in
Well,
the
I
Nine?
feel
But also
I feel
what
like it's
Jordan's-
He
implied.
wouldn't be in the nine.
But also
of
what
that
Jordan's
reckoning.
saying is, which sparked something in me, is like, because there's also the part where, I don't have the answer, but I'm just going down a mind thing. There's the
going.
part where, Kypris says, like, get a really good victim, like something weird, not a kid, but like.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I think what we're being led to is that monkeys are like a stand-in for a human sacrifice, because the
Because they used
closest
to
you're
do
allowed to
human
get.
and that's what
And
Boss will respond to.
And it's for Paz.
I mean, that's what
They're trying to get his
she's
attention.
saying.
Yeah.
That's what you
Yeah.
gotta
Right.
do to get him to come out.
And I think Scylla told Incus to sacrifice children because they used to sacrifice children, and then Quetzal thought it was weird, probably because he wanted to eat the kids
yeah.
and made them stop. Right? And then
Yeah.
so
I can't
it's
remember
kind
exactly.
of implied
No,
that
yes, this is all true.
it's to me, I don't know if it's more clear or if it's just me like putting it together. I can't really remember because I've been reading this book for like 5 years. Is that the monkey is a stand-in for the kid because it's like a trained monkey. It's like, you know, it's like it's more precious because it's had a bunch of like time and resources put into it.
Well, it's like WOLFE is. I mean, Kuipers is like get a weird thing, like maybe not a kid. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's like it's like, I mean, WOLFE,
Yeah.
the way he does it a lot of times is he's
It
like
suggests-
you got the little pieces all in one chapter and they kind of all fit together.
They talk to each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah. About Quetzal, Oreb is like the whole time so dramatically
Bad hole.
uncomfortable with
Bad hole.
Yeah. He's like he
Climbs up
flutters
the chandelier.
uncomfortably. He's
Yeah.
like there's like three. I think there was 3 instances I highlighted of Oreb being so not into Quetzal.
It was funny. Cool little details.
I just want to mention, not to get us off topic, I don't want to talk about it right now, but I just want to mention, because before I forget, that I read Fifth Head of Cerberus on my trip, and it was so fucking good.
Yeah, it's real.
And I hadn't read it, and I was so glad that I waited. Have you read it?
No,
You have to read it
I want
because
to.
you have to read it after you've read Short Sun a couple times.
Yeah.
And then it's really good. I was like really glad that I hadn't read it yet. You gotta read it. You'll
Okay.
read it in like one day. It's so
Yeah.
good.
I'll-
You gotta
Yeah, it's
read
definitely to be
I'll
read at
seek
the
it out.
end, I feel like. Which
Interesting.
Is, yeah, because it came out first. But
Interesting.
I think that it works best at the end.
I mean, I was like so happy that I waited. That
Short Sun.
Huh?
At the end of the solar cycle, I mean.
Yeah, after you've read all the rest of this, go back and read the novellas that
You can read it
are
anytime.
seeds of those
Right.
ideas. Yeah, you mean there's no rules. You can do whatever
Sure,
you
yeah.
want. I just
I'm
feel
just
like
saying,
you get the
like,
most out of it.
I always had it on the shelf this whole time, and I just never got around to it. And then I was just like, I want to take something on the trip that's a short book that's on its own.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to take this because I haven't read this yet. And then I was just so happy that I had not gotten around
What's
to it
the
until
middle
now.
piece? I haven't read it in a while. What's the second part? There's three.
The second part
parts,
is the
right?
one with the...
3 letters.
No, that's the third one.
That's the third one.
The second one is the one that's like the more let me think of, it's like the one with the 2 brothers who are sort of like twins, and like the shadow children and the
Okay.
pit.
Okay. It's been a while.
I don't wanna
The-
say
the
too
first
much.
and the third I remember so clearly. The second one, for some reason.
But okay, who's read Short Son?
I guess this,
Only once.
this
You
side
guys
of the
haven't read
table.
it.
Mm-mm. Look
Only
forward
once,
to it.
and I feel like that only felt like half a time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you haven't
2
read it if
times
you've
isn't
only
2 times
Yeah.
is 1 time.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
I definitely. That's how it ended.
But
for me.
after you read it the second time, then read the fifth head of
Fifth head of
Silver.
Cerberus. All right. Oh yeah, Maddox. I've been feverish. His voice faded as he met Quetzal's gaze. One of the time Orebs goes up to the chandelier when Quetzal starts talking and get it like as far away from him as
Oh
I
yeah,
can.
is it implied that the reason Matic is sick is because of Quetzal eating him?
I think it's in there. I mean, I had the thought too.
It's not in there.
Yeah. Why did I had that thought like just now?
Yeah, I want
When I
to
was looking
apologize.
at
Your
it.
cognizance. I've been feverish. His voice faded as he met Quetzal's gaze. I mean,
Yeah,
that
because he
is-
like looks at Quetzal and he's like, I don't feel good.
Yeah, it's like vampire victim
Yeah.
behavior.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like being all pale. And,
Yeah, and then like having to apologize to your, the master who has like ensorcelled you.
Ensorcelled.
Yes.
That's a great word.
enthralled.
Oh, and then also Maddox's name. Maddox is a snack that circumpolar people eat.
Cool.
And it kind of looks like they take it's whale skin and blubber, and it's like they cut out a chunk of whale skin and then kind of score it like you would a mango. And it looks actually like a weird kind of combination of pork belly and a mango. It looks kind of good. But so yeah, that's a chunk that it's specifically I think a word for it as food.
Cool.
And then his
Oh,
dad
yeah.
is a whale's penis bone.
Usa.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like thinking about there's like an interesting that they're both related to whales, but in really different
Well, they do
ways.
that in families a lot, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they
yeah.
have like related. They'll all be bird names or whatever.
Yeah. So, but Maddox is literally a
And
snack.
That's why there's.
I mean,
that-
that's
And that's why there's the idea that silk and chenille are siblings.
Right.
Right.
Fabric.
It's
Very
neat.
interesting.
It's
Wait, and then who is their like dad is? He's the Calde, the old Calde. what's his
Tussa.
name? Tussa, yeah, which is silk.
Which is a kind of silk.
well, that seems sort of like there you go.
Yeah.
Seems like as sealed as a deal
we'll
as you'll
let
get
we'll
from
let
Then
we'll let
Blood
Airmina
takes
have
care
that
of
one.
Mukor.
yeah.
Huh? Oh
Blood
yeah.
takes care of Mukor.
Yep.
Right.
Oh,
Unless-
it's so many characters in this. This is a
And
really
Musk
good,
is in that family.
a really good chapter for just having all of the
It's a big
dudes.
roundup. Yeah.
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 I got excited actually. They're all sitting at like dinner together.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, cool. Like, what?
Oh, that he does the thing. He's definitely eating him. Because it's Quetzal's hairless head sways from side to side above his long wrinkled neck. Maddox says, "I want to apologize, your cognizance. I've been feverish. ... And then he looks at Quetzal, and then Usyk says, "My son has horrible dreams, even when he is awake."
It says in there that
vampire.
he's been bitten by an inhumi, probably Quetzal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Ugh.
there's probably another part where that's more clear, but that's pretty clear right there for me.
What's going on?
You got any chats?
It would show up over there. I'm not signed into it, so here,
It's
might have it over here.
it's fucking awesome when
Someone.
the ending of this
Is that
chapter
good?
with
I can't-
Mukor, who had been like
It's
silent,
just like a welcome.
All right. Yeah, we probably.
it's kind of sullen
That's
at the
like-
dinner,
I don't
talked
think
about,
people watch it.
but
I'm
not,
listening.
but not speaking, and then she gets the last word. Like,
Wait, say that again.
it's
Sorry,
like
I was
when we see Mukor at the table, she's barely
Oh,
there.
yeah.
She doesn't speak.
No, because she's out looking for Hyacinth.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's a really cool effect because you get that sense that how everyone else is perceiving her, of this like little wretched child who's like too sad to speak. But then you get to see real like after we've gone around the table and had all these little, even Ziphius, like it's you get the whole like cast, and then the little Mukor who we kind of jumped over now gets the final word in her full glory of possessing a very strong woman and making her like clearly, very clearly possessed. It was like Mukor in the end has, in the way that Jerboa like just naturally upstages Incus, Mukor has naturally upstaged all the Trivagonti badasses.
Yeah.
Like the last shall be first in this chapter. The meek are inheriting the whirl. And I guess in a sense you could say that about the Auk-Silk dichotomy. That Silk is the leader of the community. Auk is a criminal who's insane and has been hallucinating. And he is the guy who is like kind of upstaging Silk in the plan of Pas. The world's turned upside down.
Yep.
A world that is always upside down, because there's always
Right.
somebody's up there.
Right.
Oh, it's such a good book.
It is. Yeah, the central like metaphor of it all just keeps reverberating. Like,
Yeah.
it keeps being.
Because it's inside of a bell.
Well,
The world is kind of like a bell, so it reverberates.
Oh yeah, with the
reminds me of Emily Dickinson, as if being was an ear, as if the heavens were a bell and being were an ear, and I in silence some strange wraith wrecked solitary here. Anyway, just came to mind.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, like the world revolves around the sun, right? I get
Yeah.
it. Like, but the sun runs through the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like, that like whole idea is great, and and they're trapped. But it's so it's not only the world; it's also the universe, right?
Yeah, there's they don't understand.
Like
being an
they
external.
don't exactly understand. Yeah.
yeah.
Like like I just think that's like such. It's just like their entire existence is encapsulated, and that's just like a wonderful way of like no matter who you are, even if you have like some kind of knowledge of outer space or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And like humanity through the eras, it's like every previous era to us seems to have been in a silly little world that we have broken free from.
And I also like too there being these like vestiges in their language that like if they knew, if they had our perspective, it would tip them off, like shiprock or whatever, things like that, where it's like how they can't even, there's no way that they could conceptualize what shiprock means at that stage, but like if they had a little more context, they'd see it.
I've been reading a bunch about angels lately, about official doctrine on angels, and one of the things I came across was that Thomas Aquinas.
Fighting for.
This is what happens when Freddy comes back from being outside for a while. Is Misha has to like do his weird
I
thing.
saw Freddy when I was walking in. I went psst, psst, and he looked at me like, we don't hang out when we're outside, and he took off across the street and ran into the behind the neighbors.
So wet now.
Who's what? Oh, Freddy's. You pet the biting area.
Our street cat died recently.
No.
An old Hamden cat that guy ran over.
Oh.
After surviving some weird abscess on his back.
No.
Refusing to ever go into any houses. He got ran over. The person just kept going.
No. It's too bad.
Yeah. George.
Poor George.
That's sad.
Oh, the Waverly Ace cat, Benjamin.
Yeah.
Died recently. Which led me to think that the true sign of a great city is that there are like 3 or 4 cats that literally everybody knows.
Yeah.
And when they die, they get an obit and a mural.
Yeah,
That's like Killer, that cat that lived in Hamden.
Not the best mural.
Not the bad mural.
Bad mural.
But it is heartwarming.
Yes.
It doesn't need to be a good mural.
Man, there's a bodega type of like convenience store on Greenmount right there that I like to go to called Brothers Convenience.
Yeah, I like it there.
They have a cat.
Yeah, they do.
Nice. He's a tuxedo. He's
There's
very cute.
Mittens, the OK Natural cat.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Mitten.
Oh yeah, OK Natural's still a thing, right?
That's right.
It has been.
I would assume so. I haven't been over there in a while.
No,
Yeah,
it's
I
still
haven't
there.
been over there for a long time.
It's
but
still
I
there.
ran out of my neem toothpaste.
Ooh, that's would be the place to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neem.
It has gotten much more expensive in recent years.
I
It used to be
one
like,
would expect.
like straight up affordable. Now it's like,
Don't you?
Well, the place I normally get my neem toothpaste is Santa Claus, so I'm not expecting to get a better deal than that.
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Delivers it right to my house.
I just brought a bunch of my version of medical tourism is when I go to Germany, I bring back a bunch of toothpaste because my toothpaste that I like is from Germany, and it's like $3.50 there, and it's like $8
Yeah.
here.
Oh
Yeah.
goodness.
Also, I brought back a bunch.
Tariffs.
I brought back a bunch of tampons and COVID tests
Nice.
because the COVID tests are $165.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness, great! They're like 20 fucking.
$165
Man.
at the drugstore.
Christ.
No problem.
Because-
you want one,
because people
you go
should
get
have
one.
them.
They're $165.
What an interesting idea.
Isn't it? Tampons very cheap too.
God.
They should be also free. But
Yeah. Wow.
Death to America.
My mother-in-law always sends us COVID tests. I guess those are always it's Santa Claus helping me out, man. I don't even know why she keeps sending them to us.
probably because
She
she
cares
knows
about
that
you.
they're too expensive.
I guess, but she's the one that had it's 3 old people. They're always getting COVID. I mean, I guess Anne is
Well,
traditionally
maybe they're
a
like,
sicker
please test
person,
yourself
but-
for COVID before you hang out with us. Thank you very much.
Well, we're not gonna because my wife doesn't want to see anyone.
You can still watch TV though, right?
Understandable position.
Well, yeah, I would. And I mean, I go out
Can't
and
blame her.
stuff, but I don't see her. I'm not gonna go hang out with my in-laws without her. I guess I should. They're nice people, but they're in Pasadena.
Really?
Yeah,
That's where Kenny's from.
yeah, and too.
Far out. Didn't know that. Wonder if
Yeah.
they know. Wonder if they know each other's families.
Yeah, I wonder.
That's why they're so California-y, the two of them,
Yeah.
Yes.
in their own ways.
The SoCal of Maryland.
Pasadena kind of like seaside vibes. Like what is Pasadena?
I've only ever been in people's living rooms
It's like
there.
Bel-Air, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like water.
They
I
got
mean,
a Taco Bell.
It's more
I
water
guess you
in
can get
Bel
over.
Air.
I guess you can get over. To,
There's like the
yeah.
creek
Right.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kenny grew up like fishing and swimming and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I did too. Who here grew up fishing?
I fished a little. I would not say that I grew up
Yeah.
fishing.
I did it a
Did a
couple
bunch
times.
of fishing.
Oh, I grew up in and around a lot of bodies of water. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was fishing a lot.
I asked my parents to take me fishing off the that bridge. You've ever gone up Delaney Valley Road into the county, like towards Jacksonville? Or
I know
Janesville?
exactly already what you're talking about.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I was like, I want to get a fishing rod and we'll go there because sometimes you see people fishing. And so we went there and we went to like one of those little cutouts that are over the reservoir, Black Raven Reservoir there. And someone had taken a shit like next to the benches that were there and then put a pair of socks on top, not completely covering the shit, but just. And the socks weren't even very dirty. They were like They were like gym socks, you know, like white, but then like a little blue couple rings
Yeah.
on top. I remember this so vividly.
Yeah,
Of course.
How could you not? Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember being like, what does this mean? Who has done this thing? I was probably 10 or something, you know, and then like I think we stayed there for a while, but then my parents were like, or my mom, I think my mom and one of my neighbors' moms was there. We're like, let's move to another part of the bridge, away from this enigma.
this
fecal-
strange sculpture.
Yeah, this fecal enigma. But I've never forgotten that sight. It was just something I did not expect to see there or anywhere. But it was just multiple puzzling things about it. And as a
They
child,
wiped their butt with the sock.
I guess so. It wasn't
yeah.
obvious that had happened.
That's-
They must have intentionally put the befouled side down, which is
Probably.
like
One
Or-
would.
I would do the same, I guess.
Or it just is how they fell down when they threw it down.
Because it's the heavier side.
you'll have
It always falls butter side down.
Yeah, there you go.
to admit it provokes much thought.
Look at him.
Such
I
a
figured
strange
it out.
image.
Real quick.
That looks like a zoo animal over there.
I know, he's big.
He's so cute.
Or it's like when you see like bottles of pee everywhere. It's like, why not just put that in the garbage or hold on to it until you can? Like if I was.
Why don't you get out of your goddamn bed and go down to the hallway in the first place? Why do you have 40 bottles of pee in your goddamn room?
Right.
Oh, I
Mason?
thought you were talking about on the
That's not in
street.
the world, but
I mean,
I think
that's
it's
a
much funnier to
specific
leave a bottle of
situation.
pee out on a sidewalk
Well,
than it
sure.
is to throw it away. So I am in
think-
support.
At least
of
it's
that.
not in your room then. I don't know why it's in your room.
You're right.
Wow.
I don't like when people do that, and I've lived with a tremendous amount of people who do.
Yeah.
I've heard
That's
stories
I
about
don't
many
think
of your.
They're not all men.
I haven't
Women
lived with
have
a
done
single
that.
person who does that. That's insane.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, that was a copycat annex virus, I think, for a while. That
Oh.
spread
It
across.
was terrible.
Pee bottles.
I feel like I heard a curious amount of cases of that going on in the copycat when I was hanging out there regularly.
No.
People I wouldn't have suspected of being like piss hoarders.
Weird bathrooms.
When I still lived
No.
in Memphis, but Madison and I had met. There was one day that I was going to pick up my friend George for band practice, and I was talking to Madison on the phone, and then he comes out. At that point he was living in his grandparents' house. Like his grandparents moved elsewhere. He and his brother lived in their house, and as I watched him come out, I realized he was holding like a big jug of something, and then as he got closer, I realized it just said urine written across the front. I was like, Madison, I've got to go. And then I was like, George, what is that? He's like, this is my grandfather's piss. His grandfather had been saving the piss to use in the garden, but like by
There's a
his
lot
best
of minerals and
by
salts. and
by
stuff.
his best estimate, that piss was probably from the 1970s.
No!
It was dark. It was
Wow.
like dark. And then he brought it to my house, and so we had a bottle of George's
I wouldn't allow
grandfather's piss
that.
at my house. Our drummer, Sam, lived in that house, and he was asleep when we got there, so we left the jug just in his room. And then he came down a little while later, he was like, why'd you put this piss in my room? We're like, it's real piss. He's like, I know, I smelled it.
Whoa.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Imagine cracking that cap.
Yeah, but then we just left
I
it
would
on
not
our.
like to.
It just stayed on our back deck for like the rest of the time that I lived there. Nobody wanted to touch it. It just stayed
Mummy
there.
piss.
I'm just upset about the number of relationships I've had where someone has gleefully said to me, "It's real piss." That's never a happy occasion.
No, that you don't want to know.
You don't want to be
that.
gleeful about how real the piss is.
Also, just like
It's would be harder to get.
it's
fake
so
piss.
easy to come by. Yeah, peace. All day
Yeah, it's
long,
not
you're peeing.
neat that we've encountered it. I meet some every day.
Everyone has
multiple times. Ideally.
Well, speaking
People
of
are fucking
mummies,
weird.
Sphinx alone of the gods speaks to us in our ancient tongue,
I
speaking
know.
as we did in my mother's house and as we speak in mine. That's a new thing for the
I
world.
love that.
Yeah.
They got some kind of
Old
Egyptian
languages.
Lady Hebrew.
Oh well,
I
they were
assume it's
talking.
Arabic.
Oh wait, maybe
It's
they talk
Arabic,
about it
yeah.
later, or did they talk about it earlier? Where there's some, because that's why they talk with a weird,
Accent.
yeah, like arrangement of words, and some people syntax. Some people try to seem high class by pretending, but you can always you
right.
can kind of tell. And then like yeah, I think Silk meets someone and talks to someone, and he's like, they're not really rich. But they made a mistake in their the way they're talking. I don't know if that already happened.
Was it with the
Oh,
Talus
will it?
salesman?
Oh,
Hosan.
yeah.
Oh. Well, this was like a soldier,
that
I think.
was-
But
Oh, okay.
does Willet do it? And that's when he's like, wait a minute.
There's something about the way that Willett talks that he could be like, "Oh, you're not from Byron."
Oh.
Yeah. And Willett's in this fucking chapter. Everybody is in this
Yeah,
chapter.
it's in the staying chapter.
Even
Roll
Crane
call.
is here
Yeah, he's
invoked.
brought up.
Yeah.
Oh, was it one the Generalissimo accidentally says something like Crane was my man or something
Oh.
when they're trying? I think they're still trying to hide the fact that he's. They were comparing Crane and
For
Min
Crane,
or
for
something?
Crane, who saved you from the enemy, is now dead. That's how he gets brought into the thing. Is they're talking about who's getting seats and who the empty seat is for, and Sayuf she brings up Crane by saying, "Oh, well, that share maybe should be for Crane because he was the one that saved you from the enemy."
Yeah.
But he is dead. And then Silk makes the sign of the cross, which is interesting because he had just been so blasphemous. But like when it comes to his friend, he lapses back into like the highest courtesy he can pay him.
Well, the technology still works.
Sure.
I think through the rituals.
Yeah, I don't think that Silk's feelings about the outsider particularly, at least for him, don't seem to present an internal conflict with any of his sort of like priestly duties or like, I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't. It seems like he kind of views his clerical function as something that's not necessarily bound to the gods.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that crossing yourself can assuage grief the same way that going like this on your cheek can help you come up with a plan.
Right.
You know, it's just
It's a response to it.
Oh yeah, wire together, fire together.
yeah.
Yeah. But then they talk about Crane for like a page or two.
And then they're trying to figure out if Mint's dead, and she's not,
Yeah.
according to
According to Mukor, who I would trust to
I
know.
would believe that.
According to Mukor? No,
Yeah,
it's
'cause
according to the glass.
Yeah, they saw her in the glass.
Oh, okay. I thought
We're
they
talking
saw
about Mukor's talking about Hyacinth.
Oh, Mukor's talking about Hyacinth?
Oh, I thought you were
Yes.
talking about Mint. Okay.
Because she says she bought a little animal that talks.
Yeah.
She's like, they found Mint in the glass. He's got
Okay.
Mukor out looking for Hyacinth.
Right.
Oh.
Okay. I think I can.
She's got the little talking cat guy. What's his name?
Catacrest.
The Catacrest.
No, his name is.
But he,
What's the
tat-
Catacrest's
tick,
name?
tick.
Yeah.
But he is a catacrest.
What an intense callback.
Which
It's like the
apparently-
second chapter or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, really early on.
Apparently, catacrest means something like someone who talks weird or something, or affects
Oh,
some
really? 'Cause
weird. 'Cause
I have a hard time with the cat's lines.
yeah,
you
they're
really
fun.
have to decipher them.
Yeah, he's weirder than Orb.
Yeah, or
Well, Orb doesn't have an impediment.
the thieves' can't
Yeah, but he
is the
means different
other
things.
real tricky one for me. When they're
Sometimes it's clear. And
If
sometimes
I
it's not.
squint my mind, that works out for me. The thieves can't.
yeah, it's
There's
definitely
enough
not as hard as the cat.
context,
That's
because
Yeah.
it's not like they're
This
just saying
says,
stuff fucking weird as hell.
This appears to be a wolf coinage, a back formation from catacresis. Improper use of words, application of a term to a thing which is does not properly denote, and catacrestic, of the nature of catacresis, into apparently a person who constantly speaks in catacresis.
And I feel like there's
Catacresis.
a nice resonance here with the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah, for sure.
There's like
He's like,
yeah.
he's a little impy.
I don't
See
remember
what
this
ticks.
character.
Hi.
Oh, he's like, yeah, this lisping
Catacrest.
weird.
Tick? You
lisping
don't remember Tick?
Nah,
There he is, right there.
Oh my
No.
god.
Just-
There he is!
Is that Jerry Mack drawing?
It's Higgs.
I remember him.
You
You
remember that guy?
Yeah.
He runs a bookstore now
Where?
outside of New York City.
In Mount Kisco. It's called the Curio Room.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, that
Yeah,
sounds
you
cool.
can-
That's
Also,
great.
his name is
Good for him.
Ray.
I miss seeing Ray.
Oh, is that?
And he and Frog have a little baby.
Oh.
Oh, he calls himself Ray? Or Jerry? Or that person calls themselves Ray.
Jerry calls himself Ray.
There's so much going on right now.
How much can I stop him?
Okay, good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
cool.
the
I
store.
heard
That
it
store is
from
pretty
Frog.
cool.
To a lot of people go, hey Jerry!
Oh.
So that his real name now is Jerry.
Jerry.
Jure.
Jerry,
Go,
he should
Jerry,
get a,
let's go.
get a vest.
J apostrophe.
It's difficult not having people in my life right now who watch Seinfeld. It's
might-
very difficult.
You don't have people in your
No,
Yeah.
the people that I associate with on a very regular basis, none of them
No,
like
Eric.
Seinfeld.
Eric has only seen a little bit of Seinfeld, and I was a little like, I don't know.
I think it is sort of a hard thing to get into at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you should already have done it.
Yeah, you needed to internalize a whole lot of it as a teenager.
Yeah.
Or something.
And isn't the
Something
like
cool.
first 2 seasons like not the thing we remember kind of like
Correct.
Yeah.
It doesn't kick
It's
in
more like
until
a
Oh my god, there's a
the
whole
third
section
season.
of TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok!
Yeah.
And it has
Oh
the
my
things
god,
he
and people
says.
on TikTok do speak weird.
But it has all the things he says and then the things
Gene,
that,
he
that
knew.
he means.
Yeah.
I did show
Oh,
him
that's-
some putty
I don't know if we
episodes,
even-
though.
They should make
Oh,
that
I thought he
invisible.
would
Like,
like those.
Yeah.
This
He
whole
did.
thing would have.
But he was like,
This
I
whole
like.
thing.
He was
Well, I
like,
guess, yeah.
thank you for showing me these. I don't want to watch.
that's very specific.
This is for the people
like,
who
that's
have read
totally
it
fine.
800
I'm not gonna be
times.
mad.
But it's weird not just being able to like make
Yeah.
an offhanded Seinfeld
Like,
reference
this is
that
the
I'm not
only
even thinking
TikTok
is a
I
Seinfeld
understand.
reference and having the person be like, I don't know what you're talking
Yeah,
Right,
it's.
yeah.
It's
When I was in
sad.
college, it was when TiVo was a thing, and
Oh,
I had
that's
multiple
wild.
roommates with TiVo. We had cable in our dorms and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah, we
and
had
so
that.
we would just TiVo it to record any instance of Seinfeld happening on basic cable. And so then, anytime I wanted to kill some time, I just had like fucking every Seinfeld. None of them. I've watched like none of it in order. I couldn't.
course,
answer
It
your
doesn't
question
matter
about
if
the
it's in
seasons.
order, though.
No, it totally doesn't. But like, I couldn't answer your question about like, are the first and second season like not really the thing? I was like, no, I have no idea.
Oh, they're
Just-
radically
I've
different.
only watched it out of order my entire life.
Yeah.
So
It
It's the
truly
way to
doesn't
do
matter.
it.
Yeah,
It's
oh,
the
yeah, I
real-
mean-
They weren't
Like,
able to
like-
really get an episode about nothing until the
there's
Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, and then they're like the whole like the sitcom. Yeah, the meta, the sitcom meta plot.
That part,
That's
yeah.
really when it starts. That's like third season.
I can't tell you which.
I'm pretty
season
sure
it
that's
is.
in the third season.
It's
I might
got to
have
be
to
on
watch
the
it.
early ones because I started watching it.
It happens
And then we
faster
stopped.
than you expect it to.
I couldn't handle rewatching it as an adult with like a fully
We-
developed brain.
Oh
We
yeah,
tried
try doing
watching
it with X Files.
X Files, I'm fine with.
No,
but the
X-Files-
toxicity.
Oh, the latter X Files are.
Like even
so-
though the toxicity
don't watch
is the joke, I
those.
can't
No, I
handle
watch
the
them.
relationships. But X Files is fine. The monster episodes.
I love those
I'm
ones.
fine.
They're
Yeah.
so
No,
much
when
better.
when Mulder gets sucked into a video game, it starts to
I don't
really
think I've
be
even
like,
seen
I
that.
feel like I'm eating cotton watching it.
I've only ever watched like the first 3 or 4 seasons. I think.
I've
I
seen
haven't
it
gotten
all.
into, like, bad
Rewatch.
stuff. Yeah, I would love to go back and
Yeah.
watch X-Files.
They're so good. Some of them are just like fucking perfect.
All the monster
Yeah.
episodes. That's the only ones I care about. I
Totally.
don't care
Yeah, the
about
lore
the-
episodes or whatever.
They were
but-
trying.
They're trying.
Home is
Thomas
amazing.
Lighty wrote an episode.
I can't watch that
Darren-
one.
Oh,
I have
really
watched
like
it,
that.
but it's just like,
Wow.
oh my
Like,
god.
That's one of the first ones I ever saw.
Really?
Wait.
Around
Okay.
the
Okay.
deadline
Okay.
now, like last
All right.
year.
It's
Cool.
it's
Yeah.
3:30.
Yeah, check it
So
out.
we gotta. If anyone has things they
Yeah.
want to
Yeah,
say
final words on Wolf.
about the book, and then we can stop talking over each other on the internet for these poor 3 people who
There were 4 at one point.
sadly watch
At
this
one point, there were 4.
when we don't talk about the book at all.
Everything we say
It
is
seems like our limited viewership enjoys hearing our.
Well, if they're watching at this
Sundry.
point, yeah.
All I'll say
It's
is I
their
think this is
own
a
problem.
tough book to talk about, and I think that's I think that's why we tend to verge away. I think we're doing.
It
this
also
chapter by
relates
chapter.
to everything.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Well, it's a much less like decompressed
Yeah.
story than like I feel like in New Sun so much happens in one chapter.
Yeah.
And in this, it really stretches out. It's so dialogue
There's,
heavy.
there's something about it that defies talking about, in my opinion. And not that we don't. I mean, I know that we do, but there's something about this book, and that might be the case with Short Sun too. We'll see when we get there.
You
point of
don't
view
know what
character-
you're getting into.
Yeah, the point of view
You don't
character.
have
I know.
any
I know,
the
I know.
first idea. I don't have the first idea, and I've read it twice.
No, I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
The point of view character
I
in
don't
this
even
lacks
know.
focus,
Right.
so we lack focus.
Yeah, I think it's a tough book to talk
and
about.
it will be a lot worse when we get to
Yeah.
Short Sun.
Yeah.
Well, like, the purpose of this book is for the people who were involved in these events to be able,
To remember,
to
like,
remember.
what happened. And
for people now living on the Short Sun world who don't know anything about this, it's like a history.
Right.
well, and
of
it's
these
also
couple
to
days.
mythologize
Yes.
silk
Right.
into a thing, which also is
Sir.
what just happened.
A cat ran.
There's
A cat ran,
a phone?
A phone fell.
A phone fell.
and a cat ran.
Terrifying.
Many things.
But
This-
does anyone want to say anything else about this this chapter?
Yeah, I think there's a cute thing that happens at some point where they're like, I just want to tell you who Horn here is. He's from school. And then they
Yeah,
add
yeah.
on afterwards, he's actually the leader of all the boys in school.
That's
And you're like, oh, I can see
Horn.
who's writing this here.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
worth 100
He's a
cards.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He really contributes a lot.
Really
Yeah,
solid
he's-
dude.
And you can really see them be like, he's just a boy from school. He's the best boy. Like,
Yeah.
correcting
Everybody loves him, and
himself.
his penis is huge.
Yeah.
He's been mentioned 3 times, and he's worth 100 cards.
It's
It
also
just made
funny
me chuckle.
knowing that he's the writer. Once you know that he's the writer, the idea of the guy who's just been telling you about what's happening in that room, walking into it for the first time.
Although there's a degree of like, I think that because he's writing it with Nettle, and so I think that he was just like, Horn is just some asshole boy, and Nettle was like, you're not going to say that about he's the best boy in school. Now stop doing that.
100% right.
Yeah, it's funny too. Since he's writing it, he could say anything about himself, but he keeps it pretty humble. You know, he's just like
That's true.
he's really good at
He did relatively few self-inserts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, in comparison to how he could be.
All right. I think we've done it.
No.
I'm going to turn off the internet.
Bye, we'll miss you.
Goodbye, the internet.